It's out in the car. I left it in the car. Where's the rest of the crew? Jack was right down there in the front on the left. Okay.
So everybody else is okay.
Yeah, I'll move it. I'll move my jacket.
rules of order.
No, this.
Yeah, support.
It's not technically, this is the motion I explained to these folks. It's not that, this vote is not a unanimous support vote.
It doesn't need to be unanimous, it's still support.
I know.
If it was unanimous, I would have said unanimous support, which is what we usually do in
I think people are looking for anything.
Oh, yeah.
The numbers on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
Right up to you. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we put the other sections, because it was and even Beth in an article said it was a split vote. Technically, a split vote would be
Correct.
50-50.
Well, depending how you.
But it was split as in like
It was divided.
it was not a non-unanimous.
It was divided.
Divided.
Depending how you look at the vote, it was almost split if you.
Yeah, if the abstains had voted no, it would have been a real
True split.
True split.
The other question I got was there if there was a quorum of 6 and you didn't vote, why were you leading the meeting?
I can
I
lead the
don't know.
meeting, which is fine. And Jay answered
Leading
this.
the meeting, you're not
I can
the
lead
vote.
the meeting, but you led the vote. And that's what Jay's instructions were.
Not only that,
Because I had never really had to do
that's
it.
really
It's
splitting.
nitpicking.
That's really
I know.
splitting hairs.
I
It's
know.
something
I know.
that's not.
I'm just in case it comes up.
I perfectly,
Don't-
it's like,
Don't be
And if you
surprised.
watch the meeting, it's not like anyone didn't have the opportunity to say whatever they needed to say. So,
it's like,
and I don't think anyone on this board is actually shy about saying what needs to be said.
Yeah.
So,
or like
I'm like, no, you had your chance to say no.
right?
I'm sorry. If I see it, I was going to say, test it. She's like, no.
I know, and even if you were, you have that right too. I'm okay with,
I'm sure Howard's good with this.
I've been on this earth long enough. It takes a lot to offend you. I mean,
Like,
yeah.
likewise. Yeah.
There are people who
Appreciate that. Oh, yeah.
Careful.
It reminds me of the conglomeration of cords next to my desk at work. Like, half the time I get up and I'm almost falling. I'm like,
I'll take care of this. I'll bring the wire.
I know, I'm going to have to do like zip ties or something.
Or I can send you the Velcro wrap. So you can undo it. That's how we do it.
It really should not be me. It should be the engineering team. So,
Back. If you look, see the Velcro on it.
yes, exactly.
You do them, I do them if you need to.
Exactly. Okay, good. Now we're getting more crowded. Like at first I said, wow.
I figured every seat would be packed.
I think
we're not there yet. Still.
well, I think there's quite a few people that are like planning to be here like 9:30ish.
Yeah, knowing that it's not going to start on time.
Some people just
I think
want us
people
to go
bringing their
straight
kids,
to a
they're
vote.
like,
And after that, there's a whole other room though. Yeah.
but it's like, if I'm going to sit here for my kid, for an hour and a half, I want to try to minimize that as much as. I did see. Kudos to Jim. He made like a mother's room where they go change or they even use. So at least he's.
The parents' room. Come on, you're down. You're closer to that than I
Parents'
am.
room, oh my gosh.
For those fathers that breastfeed.
I was watching a show last night, and homeless is now unhomeless.
Oh, I know.
Wow,
We adopted
that's
that
really
term in
good.
healthcare a few years back. Yeah. Unhoused. Unhoused.
Unhoused, yes, unhoused. Wow.
Yeah.
What does somebody else say? Something like it's like housing challenge, but it's not housing. It's like,
I don't know. There's all kinds of words
it's like,
like that.
you know,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. I know. Like all of the terms. Like very PC. I mean, I found. Like, I mean, I work at the VA, obviously, you know that. We have a continuing education, like we put together continuing education for our pharmacists and staffs, right? And we have to get accreditation. So under the accreditation application and the way it's set up in a platform says diversified medication topics. It got flagged under the new
under the new
guidelines.
administration, like,
Like,
this is.
and it was like it has to be removed. You can't talk about diversity.
Can't be DEI
And I'm
related.
like, oh my God, guys, this
We had something.
Jeez.
I'm on board with YMCA, and it was like we had a conversation. Like, do we just rename it to like whatever synonym for diversity? Like it was like
Exactly.
type in diversity synonym.
wow. Yeah.
Uncommonality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh boy. I was
Inclusion.
laughing.
Togetherness.
Exactly right. The person who puts this together got an email, like an Instagram email, that you have to take this down. And he was like, oh my God.
It's nice to see so many people show up.
I know it, right? I probably should run to the restroom before the thing kicks off.
Yes.
They're not gonna start.
Nice. And the ladies' room, I think, is this way.
Okay.
See? How are you doing, Kevin? Ready to get going. What about you? Yeah. Wrapping up the deal. Up in Northborough. I just hope we don't go Northborough. Their last day, that meeting was like 3 days. I think there was one guy that was like just interrupting people, shooting people off. I heard it was mostly just because there was a bunch of basically the same as we had. I guess they have one guy that's just like he stood up to everyone. They don't have consumption. They vote every capitalized on his phone. So it took them 3 nights. They should definitely do that. That's crazy. Fast like 99%. Just curious. The one thing I'm trying to research, people get asked questions. Why can't we do this without all the rest? Like this, we are. No, but like the town meeting. We have 2 versions. One for about 2.5, one for the project. The rest, why we can just go on and do it. Yeah, but they want to do this after that.
Right, but I'm saying I don't want to do
Yeah.
2.5 if we don't have to.
But what I found is, one, you can't do it because it's just what you need. But if we you have 7 days from the vote, if 1/3 of the registered voters in the petition, that's used to allow re-voting. So that was very interesting. Probably a good reason to be able to do it. So we have
Oh, maybe the viewer is looking for you to say something.
right underneath it.
Framingham did it, and it was a mess. People want to be representatives just in case there's a conflict. And if there's not a conflict issue, if they don't show up, and you can't get covered because they're the only ones who can show up. Sorry to bother you. Is there any way we can really
Slide down slightly. No, chair-wise.
Here, whose red jacket?
Who's red jacket? No, you're good.
Whose red jacket is that?
No idea.
We're all switched over here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm informed by our town clerk that we have cleared our quorum of 100 residents. Welcome to our special town meeting. It's great to see you all. My name is Paul Cimino, your elected town moderator. This town meeting will now come to order. As your moderator, I am responsible for the oversight and conduct of today's meeting, and as I always do, I will do my best to proceed along as fairly and efficiently as possible. Because this is a one-article meeting today, I will dispense with a lot of my usual pre-meeting remarks, so we can focus on the issue at hand. But to start, I'll briefly ask you to stand if you can and rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is to my left on the stage. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may all be seated. Our bylaw requires me to define the bounds of the hall. In anticipation of a larger than usual crowd today, the clerk has set up two venues that make up our hall: the auditorium and the gymnasium. In the auditorium, the active portion is all of the seats and the aisles in between, as well as the stage and the floor area down in front. In the gymnasium, the active portion is the folding seats on the floor in the north basketball court and the aisles between them, as well as the adjacent bleachers if we need to deploy those for overflow. I see you in the gym, by the way. Thank you for coming. Please note that parents who have young children with them to supervise are welcome in the gym. All voters must be within the bounds of the hall that I just defined in order to vote. If you leave the hall for any reason, you must return to cast a vote. Given the split nature of the hall, it is necessary that I appoint a deputy moderator to moderate and monitor the goings-on in the gymnasium. And for today, I nominate Matthew Probst, the chair of the town's Municipal Technology Committee. For those of you in the gym, Matt is sitting at a table in the front, and hopefully he is waving at you right now and identifying himself. If not, I'll get somebody else. In addition to the camera feeds of the gym that I have on my floor monitors up here, Matt will be in the gym with a direct radio link to the town clerk who's sitting behind me, should any need arise to communicate between the rooms. So do I have the consent of the hall to approve Matt Probst to act as deputy moderator today? Please raise your hands. And in the gym. Thank you very much. Those of you that were here for annual town meeting a few weeks ago will recall that we had some unexpected issues with the use of clickers and the electronic vote recording process. As a result, we ruled out the use of the clickers at that meeting, and currently the clerk is working through those issues and fully expects to have things operational for our next town meeting in the fall at Trottier. In the meantime, however, this meeting is much too large, both by number and by the layout, to attempt to use clickers. That said, the clerk is prepared to deploy today more than sufficient number of tellers should the need arise to do a manual vote count. A warrant is issued in advance of any town meeting for voters to be forewarned about the time and place of the meeting and the substance of the matters to be considered. As you all presumably know, the warrant today has just one article listed to be considered. It's a pink document. Hopefully you all picked one up coming in. As a general rule, the proceedings here at our town meeting are governed by the rules contained in our town code, chapter 41, and supplemented by the practices found in the latest edition of Town Meeting Time, published by the Massachusetts Moderators Association. Today we have specific non-voters in the hall, subject to your approval. These people do not participate unless recognized by me, and they do not vote under any circumstance. All non-voters can be identified today by their black and white checkered wristband. Voters got pink, the non-voters black and white check. Several of these people are here in support of the meeting in working together with the town clerk to pull this off. But the remainder are as follows. Carla McAuliffe, Town Accountant. William Cundiff, DPW Commissioner. Andrew Puntini, Fire Chief. Chris Craig, Board of Health. Jason Montijo, IT Director. Ryan Newell, Police Chief. Travis Farley, Recreation Director. Greg Martineau, Superintendent of Schools. Keith Lavoie, Assistant Superintendent. Rebecca Pellegrino, Assistant Superintendent. Stephanie Reinhorn, Assistant Superintendent. Caroline Folsom from Southborough Access Media. Jocelyn Giron from Southborough Access Media. Terry Underwood from Southborough Access Media. Mark Purple, Town Administrator. Vanessa Hale, Assistant Town Administrator. Kate Federoff, our Town Council. Brian Ballantyne, our Town Treasurer. David Eisenthal from Unibank and the VP of Fiscal Advisory at Unibank. Steve Mucci, Woodward School Principal. Larry Spang from Arrow Street Design. Jim Burrows from Vertex. Frank Durkin from Town Facilities. David Finneran from the Southborough Teachers Association. And Steve Mucci, who I already read, thank you, Jim, is Woodward School Principal. Do I have the consent of the hall to welcome these people today? Please raise your hands. And in the gym, thank you. All right, that carries. A few important notes now about our parliamentary process. Your town clerk, Jim Hegarty, and town council, Kate Federoff, are on the stage behind me, while your select board and your advisory committee are sitting on the floor down front. I understand the advisory committee are at the tables to my left, the select board are in the seats to my right. Also sitting up front are the members of the Neary Building Committee. With the exception of Ms. Federoff, all of us are registered town voters, just like you, and it is good to be reminded that this gathering today is a formal element of our town government. Today, none of us is a spectator of others acting as our government. We are all collectively our town government. And the primary and most prominent function of today's activities doesn't occur up front or on the stage, but out there in the hall through your debates and questions and votes. Any registered voter who has checked in today and can be identified with a pink wristband can go to any microphone, first to state their name and address, and then speak to or ask a question about the current motion on the floor. Any voter who happens to also be a town official and wants to join the discussion will likewise wait in the queue at a microphone, unless otherwise recognized by me. All questions should be directed through me. In general, we will hear from anyone wishing to speak today, unless and until I determine that things are getting repetitive or belabored, and at that point I may suggest we move to a vote. We will also continue with the proportional timing requirements for speakers that we all adopted at the annual town meeting in March of 2024, with a slight modification today because we just have one article. So today the article sponsor will have up to 10 minutes to make and support their motion, and each subsequent speaker will have up to 6 minutes to make any follow-up point. I would note again that those time frames are much longer than they seem at first. And those requirements have served us well to keep our debates fair and productive. Before any vote we may have today, I will remind you of the quantum of vote necessary for passage. For example, a simple majority, a 2/3 majority, etc., and then I will call for the vote. If I can determine the prevailing vote from here, I will announce it. If I deem a vote too close to call, or if I do call it, but at least seven voters rise to question my call, then we will have a manual count. With that, I have examined the call of this town meeting, the receipt of the officer's return of service for the posting, and the return of the mailing. Nominally, as moderator, I must read each article prior to the motion introducing it, unless a motion is made to dispense with that requirement. Therefore, do I have a motion to waive the reading of the article itself on the warrant? All raise your hand. I have a motion. Second, please. And now, please all raise your hands. Okay, thank you. That motion carries, so now we immediately move to our only article, Article 1. I understand Ms. Cook is going to make the motion on Article 1.
Vanessa, are you ready to pop it up there? So this is going to be on the screen, what I'm going to read, and it's long. That the town of Southborough appropriates the amount of $108,517,205 to pay cost of designing, constructing, reconstructing, and equipping the Margaret A. Neary School located at 53 Parkerville Road, Southborough, Massachusetts, to be used as a new 4-grade school, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto the project, which school facility shall have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for the instruction of school children for at least 50 years, and for which the town may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA. Said amount to be expended under the direction of the Southborough School Building Committee. To meet this appropriation, the town treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said amount under MGL Chapter 44 or pursuant to any other enabling authority. The town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need, as determined by the MSBA, and any project costs the town incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town, provided further that any grant that the town may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser of 1, 46 76/100%, 46.76% of eligible approved project cost as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, provided that any appropriation hereunder shall be subject to and contingent upon an affirmative vote of the town to exempt the amounts required for the payment of interest and principal on said borrowing from the limitations on taxes imposed by MGL Chapter 559, Section 21C, Proposition 2.5, and that the amount of borrowing authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the town of Southborough and the MSBA. With that, on behalf of the Neary Building Committee, I will turn this presentation.
Hold on, Kathy. Does that motion receive a second?
Oh, sorry.
All right, the motion receives a second. Go ahead, Kathy, please.
So we will now turn the presentation over to the chairman of the Neary Building Committee, Jason Malinowski.
Good morning.
Morning.
On behalf of the Neary Building Committee, my name is Jason Malinowski, and I'm proud to stand here as the chair of that committee that has been together for 3 years to present our proposal as read forth in the motion previously presented. So why are we here? Very simply, we have a school that hasn't been touched in about 50 years other than normal repair and maintenance, and its useful life has come to an end. Some of those items that need addressing: the electrical system, roof, windows, HVAC, potential asbestos abatement, ADA compliance, non-compliance with today's standards for school safety, and the lack of any sort of fire suppression system. It's critically important to remember that while we have invested significantly in the Southborough Public School infrastructure, this building, other than the repairs and maintenance, simply has not been touched since its original construction back in the 1970s. So what was our process? Very simply, there's a time delay between the slides, so bear with me here. Very simply, this process actually started 5 years ago, not 3 years ago. At that time, the School Research Subcommittee, which was a subdivision of the Capital Planning Committee, started to look at any and all options that existed to simply just close Neary
and consolidate into the remaining schools. Through a series of deliberations and enrollment studies, which I'll walk through, that simply was not possible. That led to the formation of the Neary Building Committee and an eventual process with the Mass School Building Authority as part of this process. It's important to take a step back and go back to September 2020 when that committee started its work. 2 independent demographic studies were performed that led to the conclusions that will follow on the next slide. First, just consolidating 3 elementary schools into 2 did not work, based on enrollment projections then that have further been validated as late as December of 2024. We also spent time with our educators considering potentially moving grade 5 to Trotter. Very simply, while space did exist in the building from an occupancy permit perspective, the programming and other aspects of it specifically related to education simply were not recommended. In addition, the committee spent a lot of time thinking about whether maintaining 3 elementary schools was really the right answer for the town of Southborough moving forward. We decided at that time and recommended that we look at any and all options to consolidate into 2 elementary schools. While not a driving factor of this project and proposal, it cannot be understated, though, the potential benefits that other town departments could benefit from if we move forward with the proposal that's in front of you today. So why not the Trotter Middle School for 5th grade? I'm sure there will be questions later and we're ready to address them, but very simply, there is space, but it was not recommended due to developmental responsiveness, academics, teaching and learning, educator licensure, operational challenges, and the simple fact that that building was not designed for 4 grades, in particular, elementary school grade that would have to be segregated from the rest of the middle school. We've also received questions of why we didn't spend a lot of time on the Mary Finn site. We did. However, our application to the MSBA, and if we want funding related to that grant, was specifically focused on grades 2 through 5. Therefore, we are not bringing forward a proposal today that focuses on the Finn site, but instead the Neary site, which we acknowledge has questions around the adjacent landfill that we are also ready to address through questions and studies that we've already performed. We focused on the Neary site because of its central location to town, its potential shared use of spaces with the Trotter School, i.e. we wouldn't have to build a new auditorium at the Neary School as well, and the ability to expand the potential footprint if the enrollment did change over time. Let's talk briefly about the MSBA process. You heard a lot in Kathy's motion related to what that process is in terms of the potential grant funding. This is a group which is a quasi-independent governmental agency that collects 1% of the sales tax that we pay on all goods and disperses it to towns in need of capital repairs or new infrastructure related to schools. Through this process, 5 stages that you'll see on the right side were in stage 4, funding. They have partnered with us and validated the decisions that we have been recommending in proceeding forward. This is a designated and prescribed process that all 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts go through to the extent that they want to seek funding from the MSBA. Through their required process, regardless of whether we wanted to study them or not, we had to study 12 different options to bring forward. Through that process, we quickly got to a situation where we were able to narrow it down to 3 for more significant costing and analysis. To be clear, on all 12 options, we did cost and do preliminary design around all the options you saw on the prior screen. These are the 3 options that we narrowed it down to. An add renovation at the existing Neary site, which would take the existing building, renovate it, and add on to it for a 4-grade school of 610 students. We also looked at just simply replacing the Neary school on the existing site for a 2-grade school of 305 students, and then we looked at new construction on the existing Neary site for a 4-grade school of 610 students. Our committee had extensive deliberation throughout the process around which path we should go down. It was by no ways unanimous at any point until the end, but after extensive work, deliberation, discussion, all of which was done in a public setting, we landed on a 4-grade new construction at the existing Near East site. The main factors that were cited in the deliberation of the committee and the ultimate vote were the substantial educational benefits that that plan would provide of having 4-grade school versus a 2-grade school, and the economy of scale, so thinking about the cost of the project that this will provide to us to mitigate potential additional school projects down the road. So let's talk a little bit about the educational features. We believe that this project will bring enhanced safety and security, educational continuity and stronger community connections, grade level wings, otherwise known as neighborhoods, accessible and inclusive facilities, flexible future-ready learning environments, intentionally designed spaces such as the gym, music spaces, amongst others, maximization of resources, and those are just the start. We've recently completed a schematic design phase that resulted in a 99,000 plus square foot building after 5 months of schematic design development that involved educators within the district that will ultimately be the users of this school. Let's talk a little bit about cost. Certainly one of the most hotly contested and debated items as part of this project. We've worked tirelessly to get this number down. You'll see that on a future slide. But the numbers that have been presented forward to you today are a $108.5 million project that we expect the town of Southborough's share to be about 68.2. We're more than happy to expand on some of the math and numbers that go into this as the conversation ensues. But it's really important to understand that this capital project will also lead to operational efficiencies that have already started to be factored in to the school budget that was passed for FY26 at the annual town meeting. Those estimated savings are reflected in the numbers that you see here today. Many of you have seen this throughout, and there are flyers out back if you don't have time to scan this QR code. But in case you're wondering how this impacts me, we ask you to simply follow that QR code. This slide details the history of the project cost. You'll see just a year ago today, we were almost double what we thought the Southborough town share has been. So regardless of whether or not you support this project today, we would ask you to really consider and think about the efforts that have been made to bring forward as responsible of a project as physically possible. So let's talk about what happens after today. If there's a yes vote, very simply, we'll start a year of design and then move to a construction phase that will take place over 2 years with expected and hopeful occupancy of the fall of 2028. If there is a yes vote, we also acknowledge that there is economic uncertainty related to tariffs and other things. Very simply, we cannot exceed the budget that gets approved here today because of how our town works in terms of the code and the motions that were made, but also with the MSBA and their funding agreement that was referenced in the motion. In a no vote, we would very simply have to start to think about the base repairs that would be needed at Neary. The MSBA's involvement that they've already agreed to and voted would cease in 120 days, and we would face continued questions around escalating construction costs that would likely far exceed any cost of borrowing today. So with that, I would like to close and remind you that this is a plan, not an idea. It sets forward the future of our Southborough public schools and is in the best interest of our student population. Renovating, expanding in any respect will end up costing us more, both short-term and long-term. That would simply be kicking the can down the road, which is usually never a good idea. I'd like to thank all that were involved in this process to date, my fellow committee members, but also the public that engaged in respectful dialogue with us at a number of our open public forums. We look forward to answering any questions on our proposal as the day continues. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. We will now go to the microphones. There are 4 here in the aisles, 2 on each side and 2 in the gym. First person is this voter at microphone number 4. Please go ahead.
Patricia Burns Fiore, 10 Winter Street. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion that we vote on Article 1 via a private ballot. I feel that that is the best way to get the most honest vote from this group, given the discussions that were involved. And our next vote concerning the same topic is also a private vote.
There will come a time in this meeting to entertain that motion, but we're not there yet. So when we get ready to vote, we'll figure out how we're going to do it.
To make it at the beginning of the discussion. No?
Not by me.
No, by someone else.
Okay. So
Okay.
duly noted, but we'll take that up when we get there.
Okay.
Same microphone.
Yes, Gene Carmelek, 29 Wildwood Drive. I would like to come up front and make a presentation. Slides have been submitted.
Okay, you could certainly come down and use the mic up front. The time limits that I announced will apply, but use that time however you like.
Again, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Gene Carmelek, 29 Wildwood Drive in Southborough. It is heartening to see so many people concerned about the education of our children. Thank you for coming. I'm here to present an alternative to the proposed new Neary school that will not cost the town $108 million. As we make a pivotal decision for our town, it is important to remember that it is the teachers and staff and the support who give the support of our children and grandchildren and the community that provides the financial support that makes it all happen. It is not the buildings. Teachers and staff drive student engagement and success. U.S. News and World Report has ranked Woodward number 10 and Neary number 13 among elementary schools in Massachusetts. Trotter is ranked number 50 among middle schools. Our school population has plateaued and is projected to remain flat for the foreseeable future. The report, The Public Schools of Southborough Grade Level Configuration 2021-2022, assesses our ability to continue to use our current facilities, Finn, Woodward, Neary, and Trotter. This report confirms that our 3 schools without Neary can meet both current and projected needs. Let's think creatively and make use of what we already have. With Finn, Woodward, and Trotter, we have sufficient classroom capacity to maintain optimal classroom size. The new Neary plan is 30,000 square feet smaller than Trotter, yet the committee and the school administration have stated that Trotter cannot house 4 grades, contrary to what is stated in the 21-22 report. This year, our tax bill increased due to reassessment. We also voted a budget tax increase of 7.92%, with a projected 13.16% increase for fiscal year 27. Additional hidden costs with the new Neary proposal include repurposing and renovating Finn and Woodward, which creates a ripple effect of expenses. Other concerns include the uncertainty of today's economic environment, including overall living costs, federal funding risk, and tariffs. We don't have a bid from the developer, so we do not know what the real costs of the new school are. We can use our current facilities and with reasonable funds and planning, maintain them, fund our government, address our infrastructure needs, and consider other needs such as our library, sewerage, and recreational facilities. Another risk is the potential environmental impact of rebuilding Neary on its current site. The site is adjacent to an old landfill, which was a burn dump for more than 50 years. Although capped but never encapsulated, the clay cap is nearing its end of life. The Massachusetts School Building Authority will not fund a school that is being built within 1,000 feet of an active landfill. Ours is not active, but why risk it? Why are we okay with placing our children near a potentially toxic site? What are we proposing as a potential alternative? The 21-22 report indicated in scenario 4 that placing 5th grade in Trotter meets occupancy, septic, and space requirements. It states that collaboration and resources would be maximized. Finally, it states that it minimizes student transitions. Some have concerns of placing 5th grade in a middle school. The top middle school in Massachusetts The top middle school in Massachusetts services 5th grade with grades 6 through 8. In fact, many successful middle schools serve 5th grade through 8th grade, including 4 of the top 10 middle schools in Massachusetts. Woodward could house grades 3 and 4. We can do this without putting our youngest children at risk in a building that is not age appropriate. Without the Northborough preschool students at Finn, the population will be reduced by 50 to 60 children, plus staff. This will allow Finn to provide services for pre-K through grades 2, ensuring our youngest students benefit from a 1-story building. With eliminating Neary, we have 87 classrooms, and in the report, it says that we need at most 73, enough to meet the student needs without Neary. Moving forward, the new Neary creates a domino effect of expenses. The cost of renovation and refurbishment of Finn for municipal space, maintaining the Finn building and grounds as a town site, renovating Woodward to accommodate a younger population, and renovating Corderville Hall if the municipal departments relocate. In closing, let's prioritize what is truly needed, what is fiscally responsible, and what is environmentally sustainable. There are alternatives to building a new school when we can use existing buildings. This will allow us to continue to provide high caliber quality education, maximize our existing assets, and ensure an affordable future for all of our residents. Thank you for your time and consideration. I urge you to consider our suggestions and vote no on the proposed Neary School building project. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The next at the mic is microphone number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. James Nichols Worley, 94 Main Street. Just getting off into it. I saw this on the slides. I think it might have been said from the first presenter, quote, that this project would resolve almost all major school capital needs for 20 plus years. Mr. Moderator, I was wondering if someone, possibly on the Neary School Building Committee, could speak more about what are they looked at 11 other alternatives, the potential costs. If we vote no today, what are the other capital costs that are expected in the next 20 years?
Mr. Malinowski, either you or somebody on your committee can speak to that, please.
Thank you. There's a lot of ways I can answer the question, but the first thing I will say is, in the projections that were used to help all of you understand your individual impact, in the the main differences between a yes and a no are that we have actually budgeted in the yes situation the potential cost for the Finn modification, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. In all situations, we do know that the Finn School, regardless of its future use, the Woodward School and the Trotter School all need roofs in the next 5 to 7 years. We have budgeted that in all scenarios that have been projected as part of any estimates, regardless of the outcome of this particular project. Once we get beyond the roofs, we believe we're going to be in maintenance mode on all of these buildings for a 20 to 25 year time period. And if Finn was decommissioned as a school and repurposed for municipal use, and we're then only operating the new building plus Woodward, we believe that it would be a 20 to 25 year decision from now related to Woodward. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, microphone number 1, please.
Charles Peters, 53 Southville Road. I'd like to speak really quickly on some of my experiences as a 19, 20 in a few months. My experiences in Neary and Trotter. As a child diagnosed with autism, I found it very difficult to meet my academic needs with the faculty that were provided to me. And the faculty that were provided me did a great job. Some of my best experiences in childhood came from my friends and interactions with the faculty at Neary and Trotter. However, I'd like to note that a lot of the against presentation spoke on the fact that there are enough classrooms to house us all. There are enough teachers. There are enough supervisors to supervise the classes. And I'd like to point out that school is far from just classes, far from just one teacher in a room of 25 students giving their lectures on math or reading. It's about the outside work. It's about the support. It's about the special needs educators, supporting kids like me with autism. My autism wasn't detected until high school, and a lot of that is because I didn't have the faculty around me necessary. This plan will help fix that. This plan will provide more faculty along with the extra teachers in classrooms and will help detect these mental disabilities in children that affect kids' social lives, that affect kids' academic lives. Look, I'm a taxpayer in Massachusetts. I worked at the Westboro Stop and Shop for a few years. I've paid my taxes since I was 18. I know the financial implications of this. I go to college in DC. I know all of this. I'd like to note, though, that we aren't just voting to tax ourselves for us. None of us are going to be in elementary school again. We're voting for the future generations. We're voting for the kids who haven't been born yet, who want to receive a better education and more support. I would have loved that as a child. I don't want my future children to go through this. And I'm afraid if we vote no, our academic services come 10, 20 years won't be nearly enough to support my children. I won't be able to move back here. I'm going to take my economic power, my talent elsewhere. And that is why I urge everybody, and I will be voting yes on this proposal. Vote yes for the future of our children, for the future of our town, and for our financial stability, so we don't have to continue financing an already dilapidated school and forcing more children to go unsupported in their disabilities. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Right over here, microphone 2.
Patrick Stanton, 24 Main Street. I had a question about the costs related to potential expenditures during construction. Have you done any contingency planning on what potentially could increase the cost if you're doing the full reconstruction? If there are some state funding that falls through for whatever reason, I'm just curious what level of, I don't know, if the construction meets some sort of problem, what could the school potentially be facing in terms of costs?
All right, Mr. Malinowski, questions about potential overruns?
Yeah, so great question, thank you. What we are looking to approve here today is a maximum total project budget. Included in the budgetary numbers that have been provided today are approximately $12 million of contingency. What we're going to use that contingency on, I don't know. And I think part of this, if it does pass today and it does pass on Tuesday, will be about effective execution of the project in transparent sort of dialogue around what the costs are going to and being nimble as the project continues. One of the things that has already been decided that if this project moves forward is we are going to be using a CM at risk. That's a different procurement process than we went through for the most recent capital project in town, which was the public safety building. And through that process, we would be able to collaboratively plan and anticipate some of the items that would need to be procured and procure them differently and at the timing that we think works better for us based on the costing. But make no two ways about it. If something happens that none of us anticipate today in terms of economic uncertainty, even if there is a yes vote, we are bound by the numbers that are approved here, and they're also approved by the state. I would remind everyone that the grant that has been awarded to Southborough has already been voted on unanimously by the Mass School Building Authority. That is already funding that's in what I'll call, quote unquote, in the bank at the state level. And the reason they only give us 20 days to secure our local funding is because there are plenty of other cities and towns that are looking to access that same funding. That's kind of how we think about the potential overruns and uncertainty.
All right, thank you. I do see the voters queued in the gym, but our next one is at microphone 1. You can take that down, Bonnie. Yep, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I do have a slide, if I may. Could I come to the front? Thank you.
Come to the front, and Jason, you have that? Name and address, please.
It's hard to be short. Bonnie Faniff, 179 Middle Road. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure it was the same one. I did not produce the slide. It was produced by the NERI Building Committee. However, I do have references for it. On the blue section of the slide, which is to your left, it says that the town monitors the post-closure monitoring, number 4. Of the 20 gas probes, when they were last done, 12 of them were missing. If you will take note at the front of the school, the new design, which is in yellow on this diagram, there are 3 potential monitoring wells being proposed. That's new. The 2 monitoring wells, also on your right, is MW3S, MW3D. They have dissolved arsenic and barium and 1.4 dioxins in them, reportable levels. The monitoring well located at the 291-260 in front of the school, that's MW2, MW2D. There's standing water in that location. You go to the front of the landfill at the top corner, to your right, no, your left, sorry. There's chlorine, TBS, and present that exceed the required levels. I'm not going to go into a lot of details this morning because we have our DPW superintendent and our Board of Health here that can answer the detailed questions of those items, but they need to be asked. The landfill itself, which is in gray, the area is approximate. It's not identified at the base of the landfill. Anyone that has children play on the Petrie field, all of those parameters are estimates. What brought me to today was if you look at the diagram as of July 23rd, the Board of Selectmen approved to spend $10,000 of ARPA funds for the NERI testing soil, and it was vote 4-0. The location of that testing that was required for $10,000 around 4 corners of the new building that's being proposed. Reading that application, or that agreement, and I have a copy of the map to verify that I read it. I've read over 9,000 pages. The LGCIS, which is the company, the scope of service does not include an environmental assessment, for the presence or absence of wetlands, or analytical testing for hazardous or toxic materials in the soil, or its surface water, groundwater, or air on or below or around the site, or mold in the soil, or in any structure at the site. Any statements regarding odors, colors, or unusual suspicious items or conditions are strictly for the information of the client. So I'm hoping today the client will tell us what the results are of those 4 identified sites, which are not on that map, but are on 4 corners of that new building. The landfill itself, it's unlined. I brought that to the attention of the NERI committee June of 2024 because of looking at old documents from another town and bringing up the Department of DEP's website. That site came up. So I made them aware of the site. I appreciate everything they've done. I think they've done an excellent job. But the officials who oversee the testing of this site, the Board of Health, has an obligation to explain to you if this site is appropriate at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to microphone 6 in the gym, and then we will come to 4 after that. So in the gym, give us 1 second okay, there you go. You're on the screen here. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Gina Glazomitsky. I live at 9 Nathan Stone Lane in Southborough. I just had a question pertaining to the presenter who presented the original slide. It was a no proposal. Can someone on the committee potentially expand upon the rankings of the elementary and the middle school and why that's relevant to NERI being in a state of disarray and not worthy of our financial resources?
Okay, Mr. Malinowski, do you have the ability to speak to that, or somebody on your committee to speak to the current school rankings and the relevance?
I need a clarification because I think they were referencing not my slides, but Mr. Carmelic's slides. But are they asking for our response to that question? Is that what's?
Yes, not your slides. The slides from the citizen that went first.
So, okay, so can you hear me? This doesn't feel like I'm on all of a sudden.
You're not. Right? I can hear you, but I don't know if they can.
Hello. Okay.
We can hear you.
All right. So there was one slide that had a couple of rankings. One was number 10. One was number 13. That was the second presenter. But are you asking for that presenter to talk about it, or the original presenter?
No, I'm asking for a member of the NBC to expand upon that. And
Okay.
Why that is.
So I would
Thank you.
Superintendent,
Go ahead, Jason.
Superintendent Martineau or Dr. Reinhorn to address that.
I'm sorry?
I'd like the Hall's permission to have Superintendent Martineau or Assistant Superintendent Reinhorn
All right,
to
I'll
address
recognize one of them. Okay, go right ahead.
I'll address one aspect of what was in the slides, and then if there's further question, we can take that up. It referenced that of the top 10 rated middle schools in the U.S. News and World Reports, that 4 of them had 5th graders with 8th graders. Of those top 10 schools, there are 4 schools where 5th graders are with 8th graders. However, 3 of them are K through 8 schools, not separate middle schools. And the 4th is misrepresented in U.S. News and World Report. It is actually a segmented 2 buildings, one which is an upper elementary school, 4, 5, and 6, and a separate building with 7 and 8. This and all of these configurations are actually consistent with the same research that we have referenced. Studies have shown that 6th and 7th graders do better when they are kept in an elementary school rather than transitioning to middle. And it makes sense that the same is true for 5th grade. We can This is why in this region and nationally, there are systems that design K through 6 schools and K through 8 schools. We are not aware of any school in Massachusetts that has designed a 5 through 8 in the same building.
All right, thank you. Next at the mic is, we're going to mic number 4, and then we're coming back to 6 in the gym. Go ahead, number 4.
Carl Geyer, 146 Middle Road. During the initial presentation, it was said that you would address the concern of the environmental hazard from the landfill. So I'd like to ask 2 questions, give you a chance to go over that, which you promised you would, is why do you feel that you need to install monitoring wells at a school, which is such a very unusual circumstance? And then the second question, which is probably the more important one, is what will be done if those monitoring wells test positive? Because we're talking 50 years here, and a lot can happen, and I just would like to know what you think would happen. Thank you.
You have somebody speak to that? All right, sir, please introduce yourself when you get there. Next is we'll be going to microphone 4 next. I'm sorry, that was 4. We'll be going to 6 next, but go ahead and answer that.
If you could put up the slide that Bonnie Faniff had.
Sir, could you introduce yourself, please?
Mark Davis, 13 Schuyler Drive. I am a member of the Neary Building Committee. I also have 45 years of experience in varied real estate development, commercial, industrial, residential. I have worked with large, environmentally challenged sites. I have worked with the MBTA with many of their environmentally challenged sites. One of the very reasons I volunteered to be on the building committee is I knew about the landfill, and I wanted to make sure that whatever we do at the Neary School, we take that into consideration. The well here, right there, that's one of the main monitoring wells that the current program tests on an annual basis, both the surface water and the deep water. There are a number of other wells in existence that are tested on an annual basis and have been for nearly 30 years since we put the cap on. When those wells are tested, the results of those tests are presented to DEP, and between DEP and the town, recommendations are made if there's any issues of concern. After 30 years of testing, yes, there is material in the groundwater, but it's very, very low level, and it's typical of the heavy metals that you would find naturally, as well as within a landfill area. The surface water in this particular location goes that direction, goes to the north and to the east. The groundwater for 30 years goes to the north and the east. So any surface flows that come off the top of that hill may come down this way, but the secret is we have a large wetland area right there at the base of the hill. And I'll make a comment that I have very, very rarely made public. The wetlands in this case are our friend. For any surface flows that might come off, they go right into the wetland. And there is a stream that directly carries that north and east away from the site. With the same with the groundwater. Any groundwater flows that come toward that area, which they don't, they get picked up by that wetlands and get pulled out of the site. The area between Trottier and Parkerville Road is a large catchment area of wetlands. In fact, that particular area protects us from a 100-year storm. It protects us from a 500-year storm. In no event would standing water come any closer to Neary School. So that at that point, with several meetings with PAR Engineering, who is our consulting engineering, with my knowledge of the DEP regulations, and in fact, the landfill now will be tested in perpetuity. That is the position of the state. And the state has agreed to remain involved in this one and all the other landfills that are in this same category. Based on questions to the professionals, questions to our DPW director, which he can opine as well, there is negligible and extremely low possibilities of anything getting closer to Neary School. We have 30 years of testing to show that. Wetlands being our friend is critical. And where we are placing the school is outside the bounds, and during construction, we continue to protect those wetlands. Regarding the 3 monitoring wells in front of the schools, we're doing some very simple engineering to protect ourselves and have an insurance policy. There are monitoring wells behind the school currently. We've constantly monitored because the septic system is above grade. We were required years ago to continue to monitor anything that comes down the hill toward the back of the school. And yes, this is typical of good planning and good insurance. We put earthquake protection in our school structures. That doesn't mean we're going to have an earthquake. It just means we have protection that the building will withstand that. I'm the one who proposed putting up to 3 monitoring wells in front of the school as an insurance policy. Under the school, we will be placing a barrier, a vapor barrier, under the foundation. Yes, to protect ourselves from groundwater, but to protect ourselves from any moisture entering the school. That's normal construction. We have high groundwater between 2 and 4 feet from the surface. We want to protect ourselves from that. We will be putting in a radon type system to make sure we have no gases get underneath the school. The borings that were done with the ARPA funds, I demanded those borings and pushed so that we could have a better understanding of what's going on the ground all around the school. Our first set of borings were out in that location where at first we were thinking that might be a good spot to put the school. What we found there is what's called unsuitable fill. It merely means that it's mostly organic sand and it's not equipped to support a building. And we looked at it and said, no, we can't put the building there. The cost of removing that fill would be hundreds of trucks taking it out, moving it, and bringing in new fill. So we moved the school where the current school is. So the additional borings were to really find out as close as we could without getting under the school, what's going on near the school. And we found that those conditions didn't exist, with one exception. There was a boring done right about in that location, where again, we hit the unsuitable material. So we knew we didn't want to pull it forward. Will there be further investigations? You betcha. We need to know what's going on under the foundation, I suspect, and we have no empirical evidence that we have foundation issues, but we will be digging down, making sure that the foundations are well supported, bringing material in, gravel in, so that we have a proper foundation. We do not know that right now. I will intend in the next phase to speak directly with DEP and our DPW director to determine just exactly how many wells we may need. We may need wells in the back, and this is normal. And it's just added protection. What could happen if the negligible condition suddenly arises? There are other engineering controls that we can put in place. We don't need to right now. I have utilized them in other sites, but it's not something we need to do. Wetlands are our friends, and with my experience, we're okay. If the question needs to be answered by the DPW superintendent, he can answer as well. Thank you.
Folks, if I read the unspoken remarks correctly, I'm not going to limit the answer to a question from the floor. No more than I would limit an answer of a question you asked. And I didn't hear anything I wanted to not hear there, or we didn't need to hear. All right, we're going to microphone number 3, and I'm sorry, we're going to 6, and ma'am in the blue sleeves, are you in line?
Yes, she is.
Okay, all right. But for the woman who's in front of the microphone at number 6, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kate Haranis. I live at 9 Overlook Drive. And I wanted to share one quick fact that's uncomfortable, but in the vein of all the attention and research that's gone into the environmental factors and mitigating those and the extraordinary proactive measures that we've just heard described, I do want to also note that when it comes to the internal environment of the school, a full third of child sexual abuse cases in this state are youth on youth. And we also know there's extensive research that shows that areas like bathrooms where kids may be unsupervised are a risk factor for that as well. So I think we should give also attention to the internal environment. But I wanted to ask a question. I understand that there are folks in the auditorium who may be prepared to speak on behalf of the Teachers Association or any of the principals from within the schools to share firsthand their perspective on the project at large.
Well, if you have a specific question, I'll consider it. But I can't have one speaker toss it to another speaker.
Okay, I would ask specifically what the position is of the Teachers Association with regard to this project.
All right, I'm going to allow 30 seconds on that. I mean, I bet we could all guess. But if there's someone from the Teachers Association who wants to take 30 seconds, I'll allow that.
Good morning and happy Saturday. I'm Greg Martineau, and I have the privilege of serving as your superintendent, and I live at 53 Parkerville Road. I do have a statement that STA asked that I would read through the moderator, if that's okay. I'll position, and I'll be quick.
Yeah, if you want to read the
Okay.
statement, go ahead, and that'll be it in response to this question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, go ahead.
So this is a letter on behalf of the Southborough Teachers Association Presidents David Finneran and Jen Turio. The Neary Building project has understandably generated a great deal of discussion in our community, and we recognize that the final decision rests with the residents of Southborough. As educators, we are deeply grateful for the support we consistently receive from this community. It is something we never take for granted. However, we feel compelled to address a reoccurring sentiment in the conversation, that our teachers are capable of teaching in any condition. While this is often said as a compliment, and it is true that we are resourceful and committed, we believe it's important to clarify that our resilience should not be mistaken for ideal working conditions. Our ability to adapt doesn't mean that substandard learning environments are acceptable. Students, teachers, and all staff deserve a building with integrity because the learning environment directly affects educational outcomes. A facility that is safe, structurally sound, and well-maintained demonstrates respect for those who spend their days there. It reflects how much a community values its schools and the people within them. When a building is free from hazards and offers proper lighting, ventilation, and space, it fosters focus, dignity, and a strong sense of pride. Ultimately, investing in a dependable, high-quality educational space is not just about infrastructure. It's about prioritizing the well-being and success of our students and staff. Regardless of the path the town chooses, we are thankful for your continued support and confident that, together, we can create a learning environment with integrity. Respectfully, David Finneran, STA President, and Jen Turio, STA President.
All right, thank you. We're now at microphone 3, sir. I admire your resilience. You've been there 40 minutes. Go right ahead.
That's nothing. My name's Paul Desmond. I live at 5 Pinecone Lane. I'm also a member of the Regional School Committee.
I'm sorry. I really, he took longer than I intended, Roger. I mean, if you want to get to the mic, I can let you do that. Go to a mic, if not right now, but I'm saying get in the queue. Mr. Desmond.
Paul Desmond, 5 Pinecone Lane. I am a member of the Regional School Committee, but we have had no involvement in this project. I did have a question about the MSBA. I've heard them come up. I understand that's basically the state vehicle for funding new school buildings. And I noted that the process for getting MSBA approval started, I believe it was August of 2022. So, Mr. Moderator, through you, if I could have someone from the committee explain, what that process entailed, and also what happens if we don't approve this process now, where would that put us in terms of trying to go back to the MSBA at some future date for funding for a future project? Thank you.
So I think Mr. Malinowski covered both those areas in his presentation. But I'll let him take 1 minute. What was your process, and what happens if we don't pass this? And I do mean a minute on that.
I'll go less.
All right.
So in short, it was an almost 3-year process. We fully expect that if we do not receive the local funding within the next 120 days, we would have to reinitiate a statement of interest, and we would be back in line for a minimum of 3 years. Of course, it is up to the community, if we choose not to partner with the MSBA, to bring forward other projects and any variations at 100% of the cost.
All right, thank you. Microphone 2.
Hi, Al Hamilton, 35 Pine Hill Road. I'm actually fairly confident in the $108 million because it's legislated that we can't exceed that, and I'm confident that the MSBA would come up with the required funds. So I think we are ignoring a different characteristic of the risk which we would all have to take on should this proceed, and it's normal. The first one is interest rate risk. We are currently estimating the borrowing costs at 4.25%, and we cannot know what the interest rate risk will be in 3 years when we actually go out to bond this, but we can make a reasonable estimate of the impact. So if, for example, interest rates were to be 1% higher, that would add about $500,000 to the debt service that we'd have to carry. That would impact each of us on the order of $125 for a typical home. We also have been promised a certain amount of savings. Now, I do need to recall, because I've been around a while, that in other projects we have been promised savings which have not materialized. We were promised $70,000 of rental income when we bought the senior center. I don't think we've received a dime of rental income on the senior center. I could be wrong, but I know it's not $70,000 a year. We were promised energy cost savings when we built the public safety building, and yet when the bill came due, it was presented on the floor of town meeting as a higher number, not a lower number. So I think, and the impact, should the roughly $1.1 million of projected savings not materialize, is on the order of $300 for a typical home. Then we need to also factor in a few other things, and these are now political risks. These are risks which we, like interest rate risks, we really have little control over. The first one, as I think we all know, the current administration is hostile to green initiatives, and so should we have to fund the heat pump system, that is the ground-based heat pump system, it would add another $4 million to the cost of that we would have to borrow to this system. And then the last one, which is truly scary, and I can't assess the reality of it, but about 2 weeks ago we had the town auditor come and spend an hour talking to the select board on issues which we might reasonably be faced. And he brought up the issue that the current administration is at least considering eliminating the ability to float tax-exempt municipal bonds. And this is brought to you by the same crew that has tried to limit the deductibility of state and local taxes. I can't say that I looked into it. It is in fact a real thing that is being proposed by the majority party in Congress. I can't tell you that it's going to pass. There are portions of that caucus that aren't terribly happy about that, but it is a real thing. These are risks which we have to bear. Should that come to pass, the difference between AAA rated corporate bonds and which are taxable, and AAA rated municipal bonds which are not taxable is about 1%. So that would add about 1% to the burden. So the current estimate, which was based on the $600 sort of typical impact, is based on a set of assumptions. They are, I think, somewhat optimistic. I will say that I neglected to say that should interest rates be lower, we would in fact benefit to a similar amount to that when it's high. You've got to be fair about this. But we do bear risks, and those risks on the economic and political side are somewhat asymmetric. That is, we carry more risk on the bad side than we do opportunity on the good side. And so I think as we go forward, that risk is on the order of worst case, absolute worst case, of $500 impact on a typical home. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So let me just, we're going to microphone 6 next, 2 in a row, and then we are coming back to, and Ms. Phaneuf, I know you've been there, but you've been up once, and I've got to let people speak who haven't spoken yet.
Fine.
So, all right, let's go to microphone 6, please.
All right, hi, Kelsey Carvel, 24 Darlene Drive. I really appreciate the comments on economics. I think that's a big reason a lot of us are here today is how will this impact me? One thing that I don't think we're talking about as explicitly is like scan the QR code, one. The difference between a no and a yes, it's pretty negligible over the next 10 years. So encourage everyone to do that. 2, I don't think we're talking about our home values. So a lot of the reasons people move to Southborough is because of the schools and how well the schools do in the state and national rankings. If we start to neglect our schools and if we start, to not invest in them, people are going to be making different choices in the towns around us, and our home values are likely going to suffer. So I just want to encourage everyone to not just take a 1-5-year view of this, but take a long-term view and look at how well your home values have done over the last 5 to 10 years.
All right, thank you. We're still at microphone number 6, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, Junmeng, 4 Skylar Drive. I've been living here for about 15 years. Hi, Junmeng, 4 Skylar Drive. I've been living here for 15 years. My opinion is no for this project. I'm fully aware of all the things going on, and I support everybody said for the no. I want to make very clear, I think we are so far down the road saying we have a new building. Did we really look back, why do we need a new building? We are such a small town, we already have 4 schools. And right now, the Trotter is definitely underutilized. And there's so many, admit it or not, the fact is so many kids going to private schools in this town. And the Trotter is totally underutilized. Why can't we make Trotter work for the, for the entire school populations? Again, we are a small town. We cannot afford huge projects. The project we did for the public buildings is already not perfectly effective as we had hoped for. So let's look at that way and making sure we look at all the facts. And if you look at the note sheets I just got in there, I got the sheets. It's not physically responsible. Look at the cost we are going to increase. We are here. I'm all for about education. I have volunteered to be Chinese school principal for the past 4 years in Framingham. I'm supporting education 100%, but new school doesn't mean a good school system. All we need is teachers, students, everybody working together, and the parents. So far as I know, my kids are a little bigger now, but Newark has the worst rating. Doesn't mean the building's bad, but we have the same schools, same students. So there's so many factors to be looking into it. I think we jump to the conclusion saying, yes, we need a new school, and then everything goes that way. But did we really look at the no's and wholeheartedly and saying, do we need it as a town in Southborough with over 10,000 population? No, we don't need that. I would like people to look at that way and think it's not about money purely, but it's also about people and about education. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now I need you to yield, Ms. Vanna, to the gentleman behind you. I appreciate it. Microphone number 1.
Mark Davis, 13 Schuyler Drive. I rise this morning not as a member of the building committee, but as a resident, a parent of 2 Neary graduates, one of whom teaches at Algonquin, and a grandparent of 2, including one that attends Neary School. Education has changed dramatically in the past 50 years. Our challenge now is to ensure our facilities meet the demands of modern education. At the outset of our committee work, we considered a wide range of options and focused not only on the cost, but on 4 core goals to be able to compare the options that must guide our decision.
Sir, I'm going to stop you there. You came up as a parent, not as a committee member.
I understand that.
All right? I mean, we've heard from the committee, and if there's a specific question, we can hear more. But I need you to focus your remarks on your status at the mic.
I am. Safety. Our school must incorporate the best design and technology to ensure safety. Health. The internal environment must promote physical and mental well-being. Educational needs. Our facility must meet or exceed the educational standards. Sustainability. The project must aim for net zero energy use and long-term environmental responsibility. Staffing. We must create an environment that helps attract and retain the best educators in an increasingly competitive field. Now let's look at Plan B. This is my personal views. I've studied the material, listened as I should, and I reject it and conclude as follows. Plan B increases risk. Crowded schools take longer to evacuate, and our buildings have never operated at full capacity for good reason. Some space flexibility is not wasteful, it's life-saving. And safety isn't just physical. Placing 10-year-olds alongside 14 and 15-year-olds exposes them to a world they're not ready for. My fourth grade grandson.
All right, let's hold it down, please. Go ahead,
My
sir.
fourth grade grandson should not be navigating a preteen, social media fueled environment. As a parent and former middle school teacher, I strongly oppose fifth grade going to Trotter. Health. Already I see open windows and window air conditioning units at Finn and Woodward. These are signs of internal system strain. With maximum occupancy, older equipment will be pushed to full capacity, shortening its lifespan and compromising indoor quality. Fully occupied schools are less healthy, not more. Education. Plan B puts strain on our special education, music, and art. It limits creativity and adaptability. Both have been essential to our district's growth and are emphasized as 21st century skills that our teachers are tasked with teaching. Space gave us the ability to expand full-day kindergarten. We're adding preschool. Extra space has enabled innovation in the past, and we need that flexibility moving forward. Sustainability. Plan B ignores this. It maintains our reliance on fossil fuels and increases operating costs by running outdated systems at full capacity. That's not progress. That's not delay. Massachusetts currently has over 5,000 unfilled teaching positions and 1,000 open support positions. A recent poll found that 35% of our teachers are likely to leave the profession in the next 2 years. To attract and keep top talent, we need modern, inspiring schools. Good teachers deserve far more than to teach in a box. I'm a senior citizen, and yes, I've run the numbers. For me, the additional cost is well worth it. I'm sorry. Our community has kicked this can down the road for so long and placed our current students and staff to operate in a school that has identified issues. Plan B just kicks that rusty can further down the road. Failure and delay is not an option. I intend to be as involved as long as I'm needed, and I accept the challenge to work to keep costs down. But we can't compromise our underlying goals. I appeal to our better judgment and to our shared responsibility for the future of this community. I urge you to vote yes, not for me, not for our committee, but for our children and grandchildren and community as we grow further into the 21st century. Let's do right by them. Let's invest in their safety, their health, their education, and in the teachers who guide them. We have a responsibility to act right now. Let's have the courage to take it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Just a housekeeping note, ma'am at microphone 6. I do have several people in the queue in the auditorium, so you'll go at the end if there is when we get to people who have already spoken. All right, 4-3-4-2. Microphone 4.
Hi, Erica Casaine, 24 Flag. This is just a question. When I take any financial responsibility, I like clarity. over what's going to happen. So today it was said that the 108 million, that is the max, because that's the way the town works and the rules work. However, every calculator has been on that 68 million cost. Are we anticipating, so with the tariffs and everything going on and the uncertainty on finances, are we anticipating that the grant from the state will come through, and then if the cost rise, we're still on that 108 cap, and that's the buffer for financial uncertainty? That just, I just want.
Jason, you want to speak to that?
So I think there's two parts to the question. I think you focused on the state grant in the 68.2. I'm going to focus more broadly, especially given I think Mr. Hamilton made the comment previously about the federal energy grants. Part of a good project is about the accountability that comes after the funding is approved in actually monitoring the costs. I think our committee has been very clear, and to be clear, our appointments are an annual appointment. So, whether it's us or the committee that will steward any project forward, it's incumbent on transparency of how the money then gets used. Using the public safety building from about 5 years ago, that committee published a monthly report of every penny that was being spent, how it was being spent, what change orders were going up, what change orders were going down. I would expect nothing less as we go forward. There will invariably be variables that come on. I'll use Mr. Hamilton's example of if Congress decides to repeal the IRA credits, which, by the way, certainly has been discussed, but has also been debunked by many members of Congress. If that were to take a worst-case scenario, we have contingencies. We can put a different system into the building, or we can make a conscious decision as part of a more holistic project once we have a better understanding of each of the materials going into the building and what the project looks like, of what path our forward will be. So I would say my simple answer is going to be accountability, but a simple reminder that that state grant has been based on a funding formula based on the spaces that we have designed and plan to construct.
All right, thank you. Microphone number 3, please.
My name is Adam Fruitman. I live at 32 Fairview Drive on the south side of Southborough, and I understand obviously the majority of this presentation is about building the new school for Neary, but as part of this, we're also going to be decommissioning the Finn School. I'm sure people have heard a lot of rumors about what might happen with that, a community center, I don't know, I've heard swimming pool, Top Golf, I mean, I've heard it all. Everything which would be cool, don't get me wrong. But what I've read a lot over the past, during this project. The only thing I've really seen in the immediate is that it will be used for town offices. I'm still not 100% sure what that means, but I imagine that is only going to take up a small fraction of the capacity of Finn. Mr. Malinowski said earlier, beyond a roof, this building is good for another 20 years, essentially with capital improvements. And so I know we're not here to vote on what the Finn School will ultimately be used for in the future, but I want to make sure that I'm not even sure who to ask up there, all these very important people from various groups, but is there sort of a plan after this to have a discussion or a committee or however that works to figure out what to do with the Finn School? I would hate to see it go, whatever it is, 75% unused just for town offices in a great part of town that's used very heavily for the fields. So that's my question to somebody up there.
So the question is there a plan? Not what is the plan?
That's correct, Mr. Moderator.
So is there somebody who can speak to what the framework might be for the future of Finn? Ms. Cook, thank you.
So hi, I'm Kathy Cook, living Greystone Way, but I'm also the chair of the select board, and that's what I'm speaking as right now, not a member of the Neary Building Committee, because your question is outside the scope of this committee's work. So the select board did put this on the agenda at their April 26th meeting because we assumed this would be a question asked. It's a good question. So the decision that night was not to be specific, but we did decide a few things. Fenn would not be used for affordable housing. That rumor had somehow percolated, so we made that clear. We did not decide exactly how it would be used as a town building, but we do know that there are certainly needs for additional town space. We would, if this were to be approved today and then the vote on Tuesday be positive, select board would then throw this to the capital committee. That would then come back to the select board with a recommendation as how to use Fenn. The obvious choice to start with would be to move the rec department there because of all of the fields and gym, et cetera. But beyond that, we don't know. As far as the comment, we wouldn't use much of it, I don't think you should assume that. There's a whole lot of departments, committees, et cetera, that need space. We've been asked for the last year and a half, 2 years, to give certain committees, Historic Commission, Open Space, CPC space. We know that the library needs a lot of space to put things in. They could use the library better if they had space to move things. We know the senior center only has one floor. They can't use the third floor. The second floor is full of town departments, so they probably could use some more space. So I don't think you should be concerned that we'd have an empty building. I think we'd have good use for it as a town, but TBD as far as what we would use it for, we need to get this part done first so we know that we even have a building to consider.
All right, thank you. Back to microphone 4, and then we're going to 2, and then we're going to 5.
Hi, Gene Carmelek, 29 Wildwood Drive. I would just like to respond to the comments of the assistant superintendent about 5th through 8th grade school ratings and the fact that we're looking at housing 5th grade at Trotter.
Okay, so let me just stop you. We're going to hear from the folks who have not had a chance yet, but we'll come back around when the time comes.
Okay.
All right. Microphone number 2.
Yeah. Yes, Ken Boy, 10 Ashley Road. I have a question on the transition year during construction. If you could clarify some stuff. How many square feet of space are we going to bring online to put students once NERI is raised? And then presumably that space is going to be adjacent to Woodward and Finn and not adjacent to Trotter. And if that's the case, during that time, we have one less building. We have, the synergy of operating from just 3 buildings. We haven't disturbed the, 6 through 8 environment at Trotter, and we've probably done so at greatly reduced square footage compared to the new NERI building, and presumably a lower rental cost for that additional space than the $3.7 million in interest on the new NERI building. So could you clarify those numbers for me? Thank you.
So we get clarity on numbers for the transition space, please, Mr. Malinowski.
So in the budget are 2 modular classrooms to be at each school, so 2 at Woodward and 2 at Finn. But I think there's a broader question there of, please correct me if I'm implying something incorrectly, but I think the broader question was, well, you're fitting into this now for 2 years, why can't you keep doing it? I'll go back 2 data points that I think respond to that. This is not an ideal situation for those 2 years. Candidly, I'm a parent that will have kids experiencing it in all 3 schools that are impacted by this. But I think it's more important to think about the longer term as we think about this. We will have to take ideal spaces that are being used now and repurpose them to classrooms. You heard a lot of commentary early on in terms of the difference between a classroom and a space and a box, I think was another term I've heard used today. We also look back to the study that was cited 3 years ago in terms of our enrollment. When we actually did this study 3 years ago, we're already off by 50 students. That's 50 additional students in the current year than we projected just 3 years ago. having adaptability and the ability to push and pull as our grade enrollment, which we can't control, changes is critically important. So while we believe it will work with those two modulars for 2 years, it is certainly not a permanent solution.
Thank you.
The cost, we are carrying $2 million over a 2-year time period to have 2 modular classrooms at each space, so about $500 per modular classroom per the 2-year period. Make sense?
Thank you. Microphone number 5 in the gym.
Hi, Jessica Levinson, 13 Strawberry Hill Road. One point here with regard to inclusivity, I love that the kids are here, but for those of us who are hard of hearing, this environment is really difficult. I know I'm not alone. So I just want to point out that better solutions should come in the future so we can all hear. I'm partially deaf in my right ear. Moving forward,
Ma'am, let me just ask you real quick, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Do you have children with you today?
No, my kids are at home.
So you're very welcome to come to the auditorium. We have plenty of seats.
I will take that offer.
Okay, go right ahead with the rest of your
Thank
comment.
You. And again, I love that they're here to participate, but it's difficult. For the entirety of this project, both at the research phase and then in the audience today, I've heard a lot of reductive language about people in our community and what denotes meaningful taxes and impacts on their houses. So regardless of the fact that I sit in a position of privilege, I am a former reduced fee lunch kid who is now an executive. I do pretty well. There are a lot of people in our community who don't. It is not just our seniors, but it includes our seniors. So when somebody on the board like Ms. Cook or other people in the community here use terms like immaterial or negligible, it is highly reductive and insulting to the people that are impacted by these increases.
Okay. Ma'am, hold on.
Yeah.
You're free to speak about your opinion of using those terms, but let's keep the names out of it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I mean, I pay taxes here, so I thought that I could be transparent about it. But the immaterial costs, as they're called, best case scenario of $50 a month or $600 a year is not immaterial to many of these households. As the person who founded and does the majority of the filling of the free fridge in town, and as I pointed out, sits in a position of privilege, I want to speak to what you're talking about. First, thank you to all the biggest hearts in towns who do this with me because I can't do it by myself. I would simply like to point out to everybody what that money translates to. $50 is 10 dozen eggs or less than 20 half gallons of milk. 600, which is that extrapolated out to a year, does not even adequately fill the pantry and fridge, both of which are smaller than my pantry and my fridge at home. That's one time. And you're asking people to give up food that they need to eat. And trust me that I'm skilled at this point in stretching those dollars thanks to both the process of the fridge, but also my grandmother who had 10 children and had survived the Great Depression. All I am asking, rather than ask people to pick a side, is think about how human the people who are in this town. We have gotten a piss poor example from the federal government about how they talk about people. I expect better here, and I'd ask people to be more thoughtful about their positioning at the microphone and in their elected positions. That's it.
All right, thank you. Microphone number 4.
Karen Hanlon-Shimkus, Lindbrook Road. I'd like to express strong support for the opinion and concerns relayed by Ms. Fianiff. I think we have the wrong site. Location, location, location. The environmental and safety concerns need to be predetermined in advance, not a guess, and not with uncertainty. Whether you're for or against this project, there's a more primary issue here that takes precedence. It's next to a former town dump. The water testing has shown carcinogenic VOCs, arsenic, cadmium, leaching into the groundwater, requiring the town to fund testing for hazardous elements and gases in perpetuity. You've got to be kidding. And I don't care how small you think it might be, we're testing in perpetuity. And with all due respect to Mr. Mark Davis, who pointed out that the groundwater flows north and south, well, guess what? There are homes with wells, drinking water wells, north and south, okay, and east. If you remember the movie A Civil Action, where people drank the water, in reviewing those reports for properties surrounding the problem, you couldn't touch the water. You were warned as a professional not to touch the water or go near the water. The school is down gradient from the dump. I'd like to also speak to a broader issue, which is the cost. Our town spending, our town budget is going just a few years ago from 50 million to 65 million. That is unsustainable, and in my opinion, we've got a spending problem. I mean, we just had a 7.5% increase in taxes a week ago, and it is insulting to be sitting in this room with a handout for a lot more. Next to a dump, I can't think of another example of building a school next to a dump that hasn't had the environmental risk more known. It's irresponsible to assemble 800 plus people to drink the Kool-Aid on these critical issues that are unresolved. I agree with a letter that appeared on my Southborough calling the situation surreal, because you're putting the cart before the horse. This is not a small investment. It's 120 million plus, and someone tried to address the interest costs that has not been fully addressed here. That can add significantly to the project cost. So whatever you think you're calculating on that calculator, which, by the way, I think the company that owns the underlying calculator, major company out of Georgia, would vehemently object to their intellectual property being misused in that way. But whatever you think you're calculating, it doesn't consider the unknowns, like lawsuits against the town, like unfunded, unexplained, not talked about pensions, health fund, health issues, insurance coming down the road, not to mention just unforeseen costs of things that we need. Look at the roads. Okay, how about Breakneck Hill? Breakneck Hill. Those people should be prosecuted. The people who kicked that down the road, that went from 2 million to 4 million out of your pockets. There's a lesson to learn from that. You can't ignore reality. If there's dangerous materials leaching into the groundwater and you got a school down gradient, guess what, folks? You got the wrong location. So with all due respect to those who have spoken before me, I have 35 years of reviewing commercial real estate developments in environmental situations, and I would urge you to vote no on this. We need to hit the pause button, and we need to understand the costs and the risks better, and I don't think 3 years is a long time. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
We're gonna stay at microphone 4.
A point of personal privilege.
Where is that?
It was suggested that there are intellectual property issues about the calculator. My name is Tim Litt. I live at Woodland Road. I wrote that calculator. I wrote it from scratch. It
That's
uses
all right.
no property of anyone else.
Yeah, okay. Microphone number 4, go ahead, please.
Nancy Carmelak, 29 Wildwood Drive. Honestly, I'm having a hard time understanding why we're throwing away a school, the only one-level school, to turn it into something else. Then placing our youngest students in an unsafe environment that was never meant to be a place for their age group. Then building on a school site that has potential hazards. This is a slippery slope. We have not outgrown Finn, quite the opposite. There will be more room at Finn with the Northborough preschool leaving. Are we going to be the town that just throws something away just because it isn't as pretty as we like it? A school is a building. Buildings should last many years with proper care. The failing is on us as a town to not upkeep our buildings. Maybe it's time to step up and start to invest in what we have instead of making a plan that costs more than we really need to do. Remember, your building is just that, a place. The heart of your school is the people who participate in teaching your children. As a retired teacher and a volunteer in the schools, I see how dedicated people work to make child's learning engaging and challenging. That is the core of your school. I believe that we've shown a path to progress without building a new school. Let's take care of what we have and work out a plan to update our infrastructure and make the necessary repairs to what we have. I also want you to know we lived in a town that grew from 6,000 to 16,000 in a matter of years. And we had to do a lot of building because we had to do a lot of building. Not because we just wanted to do some building. It was imperative. We worked on all of those buildings, and I understand how long it takes, how difficult it takes. It can be, but when you need it is different from when you want it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're still at mic 4. Let me just recap the queue here. So 4, then 6, the woman with the notebook, 2, 1, 2, 5, 1, 5, and at that point, we'll see where we are. All right? Microphone number 4.
Hi, Betsy Rosenblum, 5 Strawberry Hill Road. I'm not going to bore everyone with my opinion of the project, but one thing that has come up is Finn. Why are we decommissioning Finn? And I've asked Jason a lot of questions. I still don't have clarity about the entire timeline of the review process and when Finn came out of the process, and if it was because the folks studying it didn't want it or the state said you couldn't have it. But I went to the meeting in December. That was a joint meeting of all the boards. And following that meeting, I sent an email to the building committee, and I just said, could you explain the process by which you studied a two-school solution? We tear down Neary, cap it off, and Finn and Woodward. And Jason was kind enough to reply January 5th, and I'm going to read this email because it was sent from a public address, and he also included Mr. Martineau on his response. Normally I wouldn't share an email interchange, but it's a public document. He thanked me for my interest, and he said, we absolutely discussed and considered Finn. Gave me high-level bullet points provided to the state as part of the preliminary design program report outlining our reasoning for not further considering Finn. Several concerns have been identified by the district for the potential use of this property for a new or expanded school. And I apologize, I'll paraphrase these bullet points, but I think it's important to keep in mind we're talking about repurposing Finn for community purposes. We're also talking about whether or not we're building the big, new, beautiful building on a toxic site. So, bullet point 1, and now we're back to the email about Finn. The site is located at the southern end of town and is not proximate to the majority of school-age population. Again, to recap, I'm reading an email from Mr. Malinowski in his official capacity as chair of the Neary Building Committee to me, dated January 5th, 2025, with the bullet points of why we, the district, rejected Finn. Okay, one, it's not proximate to the children. Use of the site for a new or expanded school would exacerbate concerns about bus and emergency vehicle access from the rest of town. I've lived, just a little bit about me. I've lived in town since 1999. I was a Finn parent, Neary parent, Woodward parent, Trottier parent, Algonquin parent. So I'm familiar with these sites. And I'm happy to report that both of my kids were able to graduate college and go on to successful careers despite the condition of their school. Okay, so back to the point at hand. Finn was rejected, and these were not in number of importance. They were just bullet pointed. Number 2 on the list. The site is located approximately 150 yards from the Massachusetts Turnpike, creating concerns for potential noise and air quality impact on a future school. In addition, access underneath the highway is limited, creating further concerns about travel logistics to the school from the north side of town. And I don't want to take up all this time. It goes on to list that there are issues with a possible expansion of Finn because the fields have been developed with public money, private money. They don't want to deal with that. And some of the fields, the park, I guess that's Mooney Park, may be protected under Public Land Preservation Act. So no room to expand the school. But I wanted to highlight those 2 things. We're talking about the air quality, traffic, emergency access, making Finn unsuitable for a future school, but I guess suitable for the rest of us who may use it as a community building. So in sum, I thought it was important. It was important to me and maybe other people, especially folks who live on the south side of town, to know some of the thoughts that went into ditching the only school on the south side of town. Thanks for your time.
Okay. So I just real quick to address what's happening in the gym. I can't tell this. I don't have audio into the gym, but what I'm told is a lot of the background noise in the gym is coming from the parents chatting, not the kids. So, you do what you want to do, but let's be courteous of all of us, especially those that are in the gym. Thank you very much. And speaking of the gym, we are now at microphone 6.
Thank you. Ellen Maria, 1 Witherby Lane. I have 2 questions. The first is related to some of the points made about Finn. I'd like to hear more from the building committee about the constraints that they explored building at Finn, about both the land and the suitability of the building to build up, and how much money that would require to add on to that building in its current form. I also have a question that I'd like to direct at some of our school administrators, if possible, that we've heard a lot of opinions about what it's like currently working in these buildings, and I'd like to hear from those who are on the ground actually doing that. Thank you.
Well, the first question is the cost, if we have anything on that, to repurpose Finn.
I heard it a little broader, and I think it dovetails into the last commentary related to Finn.
Go ahead.
I think it's really important to know that we considered Finn at 2 different phases during this project. The excerpt that Ms. Rosenblum read half of from my email was from a report that's part of a public document. I simply cut and paste from a public document that all 7 committee members voted on that went to the state. That document was specifically around alternative sites in town that if we were to build a 2 or a new 4-grade school, not expand, but a brand new school, where could we build? I think there's one thing we could agree on in this town. There's not a lot of open land that is suitable to build in the right spot for a school. We actually looked at the adjacent Mooney Park for the possibility to construct a new school. We can talk about different sizes later. The most important part of that discussion that we learned through the advice of town council, and if the hall wants to hear more from Ms. Fedorov, welcome that, is that adjacent parkland would require so state legislative approval for any sort of change because of the Article 97 protection that is afforded to it. In addition, while the bullet points are accurate but limited, the committee was deeply concerned about if we even were able to situate something on that park complex, the parking in nearby adjacencies that would be required. The parking situation there is already quite limited for the existing school that's there. The second part of that is the actual ability to renovate Finn. In and around early 2024, when we got the list of 12 options that I had on the screen earlier in my presentation, we actually asked the state, because we saw some items on that list. I'll give a crazy example. Tearing down Woodward School, 20 plus years old, and building a new one. We knew that was not a viable option for anyone to spend any sort of suitable amount of time on. We actually went back to the state at the point we were in the grant process to ask if we'd rather spend the money and think about whether we could add on to Finn, knowing that these questions existed within the community. Their simple answer was you could go to the back of the line, so we would have lost 1.5 years. That was a conscious decision we made. We understand some of you may not agree with that. The other additional point to remind everyone of is while there are significant benefits of a one-story school at Finn right now, especially for the population that it serves, we likely would have had to build up, not out, if we were to expand at Finn. The foundation at Finn is designed for a one-grade school. So those limiting factors, in combination with the fact that we already had priced out what it would take to add a grade on to Woodward, just did not make financial sense to the committee at that point in time. So that's where I'm going to end my costing questions, unless there's follow-up, and I'll turn it to the district on their.
Well, I'm going to go back.
Question.
I'm going to go back to the speaker at the mic on question 6. Again, I can't have you just sort of throw it over to another speaker. Is there a specific question you want to ask, ma'am?
Yes, so I'd like to hear more about our school administrators' actual experience preparing for this type of transition and what it's like working there on the ground right now.
All right, so do we have somebody who can speak to how the administration will manage the transition?
Thank you. Steve Mucci, principal of Woodward School. So through this whole Neary School building project process, we've worked with educators, we've worked with administrators, we've worked with the Neary Building Committee. We've evaluated options. We have heard from teachers, and they've been integral to the process. We've surveyed stakeholders. We have worked through developing a vision for education for our community. We have looked through the proposed building designs. We've provided edits and different ideas. We've provided feedback. All along the way, educators and administrators and stakeholders have been part of this process. We've also been investigating the relocation plan and are confident that we will be coming up with one that will work for our students and meet their needs. So speaking to you not as a voter, but as the principal of the Woodward School, it's a true honor to have witnessed so many children of Southborough learn, develop new skills, and build confidence over the years in this exceptional community. I care deeply about what happens here, and I'm grateful for the chance to speak with you from that perspective. The decision before you to approve the construction of a new school building is not an easy one, but one that will have a lasting impact. Having engaged in this thoughtful and collaborative multi-year process, I feel both grateful and enthusiastic about the proposed school design and all that it presents for our community. This is truly a once-in-a-career opportunity to participate in the designing of a school that reflects our shared commitment to students and creating a learning environment that meets their evolving needs. Our students are counting on us to provide the tools, the space, and the support they need to thrive, not just academically or socially and emotionally. A modern, safe, intentionally designed school is not a luxury. It's a foundation of the community. It's where learning begins, friendships are built, and futures take shape. As the principal of Woodward, I can attest to the tremendous benefits a new school building would bring to our students. I'm hopeful this project moves forward, and I'm amazed by the possibilities it affords our children and community at large, both now and for generations to come.
All right, thank you. Microphone number 2.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank everybody. As residents in the town, I know we have a common goal is to making our town great, all right? So to make it better for the future. So for that reason, I appreciate the building committee working with your spare time. And I also thank all my fellow residents here to spend their time even today. So I have question is more like in first is from the philosophical thinking. What really making a good school, just like what make a good home or happy home? Is the house size or the people living in the house? And for the school, so it's just a school building, the age, or the maintenance through all the time. Just like if you want to have a healthy body, you say, I need to go get a really fancy brand name of clothes rather than to go exercise. So if you look in Harvard, so they have buildings probably hundreds of years old, so they are still ranked number 1. So what makes Southborough more attractive or making Southborough will advance in the future? So we talked about energy efficiency, green. Did we do anything in the future? So I put the first solar panel and the geothermal in my house like 12 years ago because I'm aware of that. So we get to act on it. So not just plan, because if we don't have the tire hit the road, so doing all the details, so it's hard to get to our goal. So therefore, the same thing for STEM. I have visitors from China. They look in any of our school. They were envy for the space, but their STEM level of the students is probably much higher than here. So that's put me in a question. Say what really matters. So how we are going to get our school prepared with the AI age and with all the more things you cannot see. So the community, the physical discipline, how we learn. So we want our students put there, say we can boast, we have a so new, a great school, but we are still ranking behind the people don't have that physical. I'm not underestimating or under-talking the importance of physical conditions, but we get to have a balance. So we have a limited budget, everybody, right? So no matter how much money you have, everybody can still have a limited. So to make it a physical and a disciplined, so planning involves a lot of things rather than whether we do this or not doing this. So we need to look in the current school program a little bit better and the physical space, what we have, what we can do it for the maintenance. No matter whether you have a new school or not, the maintenance of the roof, HVAC, everything. So just like we are living in our own house, even you move into a new house, you have lots of things you have to take care of it. That's all costs money. So it doesn't mean new building will eliminate all the problems. Unless we know how to handle all those daily routine O&M things for our current school and how to retain our school, we pay them good enough, so all that to get a better teacher and to get a program and to involve the students they can be proud of rather than just a physical building. So for that, I don't think I see all the materials ready for a new construction yet, even though I want a really high-brand firm code, but I really don't need it. I only need a short run, so right. Even people offer me a 35%
Got to have you
discount.
wrap it up, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Microphone number 1.
Good morning, Julie Connolly, 26 Granuel Road. By standing here today and listening to all the comments we've heard so far, I'm reminded that our town has an abundance of riches, both in people who absolutely care about education, care about our future and our kids, and also in the wealth of expertise that we have, both on the committees, on the Neary Building Committee, across our other committees, and in our general population. I'm really impressed to hear that the people who are weighing in and providing opinions on this have expertise in building and construction and environmental and engineering and education. So that makes this a really vibrant discussion. But my point is that I know that this committee has the Neary Building Committee has been in existence now for coming up on 5 years. I know that over 100 meetings have been held publicly, and while I love hearing all this information, I know that that is the committee that has put in hundreds and hundreds of hours in conjunction with other committees in town. I know that the school committee obviously has an opinion on this, which I believe, I don't know if that's been stated publicly yet, but I believe that they support this. The advisory committee, the select board, are filled with people who not only are very much invested in this town and have invested more hours than anybody else in this room in thinking about the different scenarios and the different possibilities for moving forward. But putting in that time and giving the public great ample opportunity to come forward with their comments and questions. And you can see throughout this almost 4-year or almost 5-year process that many of those considerations from people in the community have been integrated and answered. They continue to answer questions regularly, respectfully, diplomatically, and I think that there are, reasonable arguments on both sides. I think reasonable minds can vote on either way on this issue. But for me, I do give a little extra weight to those people who are not just our neighbors and our friends and our community members, but who have put in so much time and I think done a very thorough job from the documents that I've looked at. I think they've done a good job of showing that while this is incredibly expensive, other options are going to be expensive too, and this is probably over the long term. This is the choice that they recommend because it will, over the long term, prevent other costs as well. I appreciate that there are also other factors that are out of our control, and I appreciate people weighing in on that and also providing contingencies within the budget for that. But again, I think that I'm very compelled by the statement of the teachers union, by our school administrators and teachers. I think that should weigh heavily as well. So while I'm considering this issue, I am giving extra weight to the people who have invested that time, who have done all the research, who have worked with the state, and who have collected the feedback from our community through open meetings, through surveys. These people have been jumping up and down trying to get our attention and get our feedback for years. So I appreciate that very much, and that will weigh in on my decision today. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone number 2.
Did you say 2? Yes.
2.
Okay. Keisha, 9 Blackthorn Drive. I just want to prefix this by saying that I came in kind of inclined one way, but open to hearing both sides of the story. And here's a comment/question. We spoke about reshuffling grades and not having the 5th graders with the 8th graders, which I totally get. Have we considered having Trottier to be 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade and moving 7th and 8th grade to Woodward? Was that a consideration?
Mr. Malinowski, was that one of the 12 options?
No. It was not.
Okay.
Okay. In the gym, sir, microphone number 5.
John Pickavage, 233 Cordoville Road, Southborough.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for all the effort they put into this. Really impressive, the level of detail. I think for most of the people who are on the fence, like myself, I wish there was a little bit more clarity if it doesn't pass as to what we're going to do in the future, since it's been admitted that for the past 50 years we haven't been investing into this school that everybody wants to tear down. And so when it comes down to a common sense approach, one of the questions at the end of my little spiel here that I'd like for everybody to address is anything being put into place so we don't get into this situation again? If it doesn't pass, do we have a plan for fixing up the building in a common sense way? I know that there's been a remodeling cost that's been proposed, but with that is also the addition of a building, essentially, and with the goal to have the city's office or town's offices moved over to Finn. So the question is really, when it comes down to the remodeling side, is there an ongoing remodeling expectation if this goes no, to replace the heating and cooling system to take advantage of existing incentives such as the Mass Save program, as well as the other federal tax credits that would still apply even if we don't do new construction. For a little background, I own several construction companies. I manage hundreds of people in the space, especially in the heating and cooling space. I'm the president of a home and building electrification division for a publicly traded company, so I'm intimately familiar with these types of projects and what the options could be. And I really wish there was more attention placed on that. And I think that's part of the issue as to why a lot of people are on the fence, is because they don't feel like they're given the full picture. So that's just some feedback for the next time. Last two things before the official question is I reached out to other experts in the area to find out what their opinion was on the matter. 3 people that I spoke to spent 6 years in the building, and I asked what they thought about the building, and every one of them spoke about the people. They talked about their experiences. They talked about how the teachers are amazing, and I didn't hear much about the building itself. And those 3 experts are my 3 daughters who just finished for the last 6 years. They just went through the school. And every one of them, they loved just the experience that they had there. So a little applause to the teachers, because I think they're the ones that make this experience really what it matters.
All right.
And then if we don't use a common sense approach and we spend all this money on a new building, does that take away from teachers and their ability to take care of the children? And if we use a common sense approach and we remodel the building, we still get another 20 years out of it, does that give more resources to the teachers to have a better experience with those children? Those are things just to think about. The official question would be, if this is a no and it doesn't go through, what happens next as far as the efforts we put into the building other than replacing the roof and doing some basic things? So that way we could still have a functional society here in this beautiful town that we have, so that the town can operate, and will they still be able to do what they need to do, or do we have a serious problem with like the town building situation? And ultimately, can we continue to keep the school going if it is a no, and are there any plans to keep it going past 20 years with sufficient investment that's not essentially ripping down a whole new building?
All right, thank you. Who can best speak to, what if we don't pass today?
Very simply, I think whether it's today, and I'm just going to address today and Tuesday combined, and I think we should clarify that for voters before any vote is taken, is if there's a no vote in either one of those, we're a public committee. We would have to meet certainly with the select board and others to decide what the path forward is. We'll take a worst case scenario is doesn't pass today, there's not another town meeting or ballot vote that this proposal passes. We would immediately need to look at the existing NERI structure, decide how long we have left, and I remind you, we looked at a base repair project throughout this process. That base repair project was to continue a 2-grade school in the existing building, but to deal with all the code and structural inefficiencies that currently exist. That project cost was approximately $40 million after state reimbursement. We did not study that number after August of 2024, just for full transparency on that as well. So that is an option that could be brought forward to the town, but that would be at 100% cost, not the 40 after state reimbursement, because our reimbursement would be. So I'd say the simplest answer, it would be a community conversation on what's next, but I would counter that with, as multiple people have said, we've been doing this for 3 years, attempting to engage the community. I would say we sufficiently engaged everyone in the last 30 days, but regardless of what side you're on, And I would say if this does not move forward, I think it's incumbent on every single person here, whether you're a yes or a no, to engage in that process, because we clearly need to do something.
What would the lifespan be if that $40 million investment was made?
Sir, if you're following up, you got to step closer to your microphone there.
Yeah, it was just what would the lifespan be? Because I've heard 20 years if not a lot of investment goes in. If we make a $40 million investment, what would the lifespan of NERI be at that point?
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. He's asking lifespan if we had done the base repairs, how I'm understanding the question. Yeah. So I would say closer to 10 years before some further discussion.
Okay. All right. We're going to go. I have several people in the queue. The next four are 1563. After that, I'm going to ask folks to consider what they might have to offer that's new or different than what we've heard. Okay? And the folks that are in the queue beyond 1463, stay where you are. We'll just see where we are. But ma'am, you've been waiting. Go right ahead.
Beth Whitcock, 3 Schuyler Drive. Been a resident of Southborough since 1983. Served on the school committee, regional school committee for 16 years, the local school committee for 6, and a middle school principal for 20 years. I came in here really wanting to vote yes. I've never not voted yes for any capital override, including our public space over on 85. And I am concerned, and I don't want to be repetitive, so I'll bring forward my greatest concern. And that is the notion that 5th grade cannot move to a middle school. Administrative licensure in the Department of Education is pre-K to 8, so, and 8 to 12. So clearly the Department of Education acknowledges that grade configurations can vary according to the town. I also would like to speak to the reasons that you give as obstacles for moving 5th grade to Trottier, and that are not designed for let me start from the top. Developmental responsiveness. Again, an educator for a very long time. I don't know what that means. Academics, teaching and learning. What are they? That's you put it as a bullet, but you don't explain it. Education or educator licensure is not an obstacle. I don't know why it would be listed as one. Operational changes. What are they? You don't specify. And not designed for 4 grades. I don't believe that's actually accurate. I was on the Trottier building committee as well as the school committee at that time, and I think we spoke about the need for potentially having more than 3 grades. So I don't want to be repetitive. I had a couple of other things to say, but in the courtesy of time to other people. Thank you.
Okay. I misspoke just now when I set up the queue. I said 1463. It's actually 1563. So who's got a point of order? You got to go to a microphone.
Here. Mary Tinty, 2 General Henry Knox Road. Again, apologies if this is an incorrect use of that. I defer to you, Mr. Moderator. But a lot of things were addressed in that comment/question, and I wondered if before we moved on to another question, we could get a response from the school committee and the building committee.
Yeah, the suggestion was made down here as well. Ma'am, I took you as sort of reciting things that you didn't understand, but not asking what they are, but you're certainly free to ask a follow-on question or set of questions if you like.
We don't have time in this
No,
forum.
we do. We do. If you.
All right, so. No, we don't.
We could keep the answers brief.
Well, it's going to have
Listen,
to be.
I don't want anybody leaving here today saying they were not heard, all right, within reason. So let's have a bullet question and a bullet answer, please.
All right, this is directly from their presentation. So the first obstacle listed.
Jason, why don't you go up there? Be ready. Okay. whomever.
Can you give me this sheet? Because I can't find it on my notes.
I'm responding to why not fifth grade at Trotter. The
That's-
leadership.
Well, hold on,
That's
hold
not
on.
what I asked. That's not what I stated.
Let her ask the question. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, you. Yes.
I'd like to know what you mean when you say developmental responsiveness.
What we mean is that we believe it is developmentally inappropriate for our fifth graders who are in a very different place socially and emotionally to be in the middle school when we cannot segment fifth grade away from the other grades. Peer-reviewed research shows that even sixth and seventh graders would benefit from being in an elementary setting. If we put fifth grade at Trotter, they would be sharing bathrooms, hallways, and other shared spaces with sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. Fifth graders would be riding the bus with middle and high school students. And we believe that this would prematurely expose them to the teenage experiences and topics before they are ready.
You could make that same argument for ninth graders and seniors
all right,
as well.
all right. We're not having a one-on-one here. Do you have other questions? Quick follow-ups?
Academics and teaching and learning.
The academic misalignment has to do with both the model and the curriculum. Fifth grade is not academically aligned to the middle school program. The fifth graders, the model is that they have the same teacher for ELA, math, science, and social studies in most classes, while middle school students change teachers and classrooms for each discipline. This means that every 46 minutes when the bells go off, all sixth, seventh, and eighth graders would be changing classrooms while the fifth grade remains in their classrooms trying to stay focused. Also, the fifth grade curriculum and resources are part of the same programs that we use for K through 5, while the sixth through eighth grade use different curricular programs.
Anything else?
Educator licensure.
Most of our elementary teachers are certified as K through 6 generalists, and as I said, our fifth grade classrooms function where those teachers are teaching across discipline. Most of our middle school teachers are certified by discipline 5 through 8. This mismatch is not impossible, but it significantly reduces our flexibility and efficiency in staffing when we have to make changes in response to enrollment, which we do annually.
I think there was one more, maybe.
Not designed for 4 grades, including a segregated grade.
You want me to?
I mean, that Trotter building has flexibility to mitigate any of these topics you raised.
We have
Go ahead, please.
The building was not designed so that we could separate one grade from the others. So the elementary school students would be mixed in with the 7th and 8th grade students. So as I said, when the bells are ringing and we would be running a bell schedule for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, the halls would be filling, and that would not be true for the 5th grade. In addition, the space constraints, which would require us to add another lunch shift, which could be as early as 10:30 in the morning or as late as 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Our specialists, our interventionists, and our special educators would have to use spaces that are not designed for the purposes, and we would anticipate that we would both reduce the quality and the time available for those parts of the student experience.
All right, thank you. We're going to go next to microphone 5, and then 6, and then 3. But hold on one second, please.
I'm for it.
All right. So my deputy moderator has identified that there are children in the gym that are unsupervised. I don't have much information other than that. But, you know, and it sounds harsher than it is. This is not daycare. This is just accommodating parents. So if there are children in the gym that should have a parent closer to them, No, I am being serious. I'm addressing the parents in the gym. Parents in the gym, corral your kids, please. All right. The clerk asked me to make that announcement. I should have let him do it. All right, the kids that are playing on the mats, making noise. All right, microphone 5.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Cox, 10 Metcalf Lane. I would like to make a motion to request we use a secret ballot, and then following that, if that was passed, then make a motion that we go on to vote.
Okay, so the first thing, and I understand Ms. Burns-Fiore was up very early in the meeting, and I did promise her that we'd come around to this question when the time came. We may be close to that time, but I want to make sure we are. So we will take it up. We will not vote until we address the issue of whether the ballot will be secret or not. So you don't worry about that. We will address it before we vote. But there are people at the microphones, and if they feel like they have something new that we haven't heard before, I'm going to give them that. I'm going to honor their participation the way I have for the entire meeting up to this point. And we're at microphone 6.
Hi, my name's Ed Mangan.
I'm sorry. I'm not entertaining the motion yet. I don't need a second. Point of order? Who's got the point of order? Please go to the mic.
Hello?
Hi, Kathleen Berry.
Hold on, microphone 6. Sorry.
Kathleen Berry, 23 Richards Road. When are we anticipated to have somebody wait in line to move the vote? Because that's what I'm doing. I think it's worth it. But are we going to need somebody to stay in line and move the vote again? Or are you going to call it at some point?
At some point, if I don't have that motion before then, I will call it. That's why I'm announcing now that if you're at the mic now, let's think about what's new and different. So we will be voting sooner than later.
Thank you.
All right, microphone 6. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sir, microphone 6 in the gym.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name's Ed Mangan. I live at 2 Moulton Road, Southborough. And I love Southborough. I've been here since '92, and I've seen a lot of changes, but not the kind of changes that happen in the surrounding towns. I love the idea that Southborough stays together, and there's not a lot of development, and so that's why I love living in Southborough. I mean, I tell people that I live right down the street from the transfer station. You know, and they look at me like I'm crazy. But we have the best transfer station in the area, the only one. And so I really appreciate what the town has done for the town and the administrators and the town workers and everything to, you know, make this town look good. And I'm very proud of it. And I've been proud since 1992. I've lived in 2 different areas. Now I live on 2 Moulton Road, and I live within walking distance of the Finn School. And I'm very proud to own property within a 5-minute walk from an elementary school. And I was wondering if there was a study done to see what the impact of the property values for the hundreds of people, families in my area that are going to be affected if the Finn School discontinues to operate.
All right. Did we do a study on property value changes? No. Go ahead. He indicated no. Go ahead.
There was no.
Okay. No, there was no such study. Does that answer your question, sir?
No, I didn't. No, sir. No, could you repeat that?
Okay. The chair of the building committee said there was no such study regarding property values.
Oh, really? Okay. That's interesting.
Yes.
I would have thought that would be in the priorities for us people in the south side of town.
All right,
But I
thank
guess
you.
not. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you. All right, microphone 3, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Marnie Houlihan, 26 Clifford Road. I have 2 very pointed questions. The first was one that Ms. Faniff raised. I would like to hear from the Board of Health because subsequent to her conversation, 2 other people spoke and it referred to the space as toxic. So I would like a Board of Health versus Mark Davis. I appreciated his comments, but I would like Board of Health. And the second is this is a proposal for funding for reconstruction. Can you provide the maintenance required? I think we've heard that as well. Like, what will be the ongoing maintenance and impact to our taxes moving forward? We've projected out 8 years. Has that number been calculated? Thank you.
All right, so do we have someone from the Board of Health?
Over here.
Yes, can we answer the first part of that question? Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Liz Zulik. I live at 3 Hidden Meadow Lane, and I am a member of the Board of Health. The Board of Health has looked into this on multiple occasions. Mark, Bill, and Per have kept us involved in the entire process. DEP oversees the testing results, and they would notify us and DPW if action needed to be taken place for our town in relationship to this. We will continue to work collaboratively with the town and Per if the project moves forward to make sure it's a safe environment for students and staff. So we've reviewed all the data. We are following state and local guidelines in this place, and I think all 3 of us have students who are in the school system or involved, and we're closely monitoring it to ensure our kids' safety. We believe the things that the building committee has put forward to mitigate risk and continuing monitoring over time will satisfy these concerns. The testing levels that people have reported are below levels of concerns as following both state and federal guidelines in this space.
All right, thank you. And just, Ms. Houlihan, can you clarify the second question was about ongoing maintenance?
Yeah, so the proposal ahead of us, obviously we're all voting today on $108 million, trying to understand what is the future. I mean, the planning, right? We fell short for 54 years not investing in maintenance. What is the plan for maintenance, and what does that financially impact us if we do say yes today?
Yeah, so we have thought about this in 2 ways. First thing I would say is we got an extra 1.44% state grant because of our maintenance plan. So they actually gave us incremental grant because of the way we have actually maintained and kept this building operational, as well as our future operational plans. We have projected out the operational costs based on what we know about the systems that are planned in the building, but also the staffing as part of that. And then in addition, both the Southborough School Committee maintains a 8-year capital plan. We obviously wouldn't have anything for this project on the capital plan to start, but things would be added throughout time, and the town maintains a 10-year capital plan as well that encompasses all town buildings.
All right, thank you. At this point, if you are at a microphone, I'm not asking you to sit down, but I am asking you to share something new or different than what we've heard during all the time that we've spent so far today. So if you could focus on that as you're thinking about your remarks, I'd appreciate it. We're going to microphone 6. Ma'am, I'm sorry. We're not going to come back around to those who have already spoken. It doesn't seem feasible at this point because there are still several that have. So the woman in the black top, it's microphone 6. So not the woman in the headband, but the one behind her is who I'm recognizing right now. If something new or different, please.
Hi, my name is Sherry Tao. I live on 39 Meadow Lane in Southborough. I actually just trying to move motion to vote.
Okay. So I heard plenty of seconds. I'm going to give the folks at the mic a chance to tell us something new or different. I'm going to hold them to that. So I'm going to forestall that motion for now. Microphone number 2. New or different? I mean, they've been standing up there for hours, and you're shouting them down. I'm not going to have it. Go ahead. New or different?
New, I hope. Very quickly, for people who may remain undecided, and for the sake of maybe explaining some optics for folks that don't attend a lot of town meetings, typically this side in the table facing the hall is the select board. this side is advisory. Right now, we've got the school people, we've got the consultants, the architects, one select board, the select board chair, the NBC people, over here advisory. All of the folks, with the exception of 2 abstentions on advisory facing you right now, are for this project, except for one. That is the very attractive young woman here in the green blazer, who is my wife. And I would encourage you to read pages 2, 3, and 4 of the advisory opinion. This is the white document that you have. If you've got time and I'm boring, start reading. That is her well-reasoned and principled no vote. And I think it's important for tone and tenor to point out that Marcy spent thousands of hours on this, watched every single meeting, usually twice, I know, because I was ignored while she was doing it, watched this procedure and these debates in other communities throughout Massachusetts. And in a decision that I regard as highly principled, and I am obviously, I think, inordinately, or I think justly proud that she's taken, without rancor, without dispute, voted no. And again, I would just refer you to her reasoning because she's much better on it than I am. The one thing that I would like to say, if I may, Mr. Moderator, is that our house is very pro-education. First of all, by the way, we respect and admire everybody up there. Some of those people we really like, and a couple are very close and dear and cherished friends of ours. But she said no, and again, I refer you to her reasons. Our house is very pro-education. Full and fair disclosure, our only child has 4 paws. However, I am a career college professor, and my wife has spent in her day job many, many years instructing postdoctoral medical students in their training for the future. So we're very, very pro-education. But when I stand in this hall, this particular auditorium, I must admit I feel 17 again, because at the risk of dating myself, in the late 1970s, I spent one hell of a lot of time in this auditorium. And I can tell you, although this building was built in 1959, 12 years before NERI, it's way, way nicer now than it was in 1979 when I graduated. Which just ought to give you a little bit of thought about the powers of renovation and the possibilities. Thank you.
All right. New or different, microphone 4.
Hi, Joanne Pearson, 101 Newton Street. I'm going to be very brief. I know probably there are many of you in the room here who met me at the transfer station the multiple Saturdays that I was there, and this week, 2 days during the week. So I talked to a lot of people, and I have just 2 very brief comments. The lasting impacts that I think one of the principals said, what are the lasting impacts? This is what I've seen from people that I've talked to and my own thoughts. The lasting impacts, one of the lasting impacts is that many people are going to have to leave this town because of the increase in the taxes for this project and all the other upcoming projects that we have. And young families who aren't super wealthy will not be able to afford to move to this town. Thank you.
All right. New or different in the gym, microphone 5. And I'll tell you, I've got 5, 4, 3, and 2, and at that point, I will entertain other motions. Go ahead, 5.
Lori Borda, 9 Winter Street. I want to thank both sides and everybody for their time and energy on this project. My new information is this is rapidly becoming a vote of attrition. So again, I move to no vote.
Okay, that's nice and concise. Mike 4, nice and concise.
I'll be very concise.
No, sir. Have you gone?
No.
No, sorry. Go right ahead.
Thank you. George Ronis, 9 Overlook Drive. I want to thank everyone here. Great show of democracy for coming out. We have differing opinions. That's the whole point of this. So I want to thank that. I want to thank the educators. And I want to make one point. I view this as a 50-year investment. So I could imagine there will be an impact in recruiting teachers if our facilities fall behind, especially when we're competing with towns that have really good facilities and are increasingly wealthy. I find it interesting, the argument that teachers can work better or harder. I can have Usain Bolt run in cardboard boxes and he probably kick most of our butts. If I give the guy good shoes, he's going to really perform. I view it the same way for teachers. You give them the right tools, the right facilities, they'll really explode.
All right, thank you. Microphone 3, new or different, please. New or different at microphone 3.
Claire Reynolds, 104 Main Street. Mr. Moderator, I'm just adding one thing onto what Kevin Miller said. Folks, if you're not speed readers and you take your advisory report, the 4th page, the top number 5, is the one line that you want to read in terms of an unsustainable tax rate that we have with all the projects coming up. So I just urge everybody to think of what is, to prioritize practical solutions, financial responsibility, and make decisions for the well-being of all of Southborough. Thanks
all right,
all very
thank
much.
you. Mike 2. Something, thanks for your patience.
Yeah.
Something
Chris
new or different.
Cahagan, 120 Main Street. And I feel today we have 2 options. A is the new school. B is to renovate the old school. We're not given that other option. We've not thoroughly looked at what that option could be. You've shown early on that you've dropped the cost of the current project almost in half. I'm assuming we did the same thing with renovations. It's going to go from 40 to 20. So instead of showing up with either build a new school or we don't know what we're going to do is a bad choice. Time is not our enemy. Time is our friend. Let's start again. Because I think the options you're giving us are either do it my way or it's going to look horrible. And that's not a good option to be in. Don't put a gun to people's heads. Let's come with 2 options, not just one.
Thank you. All right. Next, I'm at microphone 6.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Leisha Pazinski Sanchez, 41 Parkerville Road. I'm here today not just as a parent, but somebody who has called Southborough for over 30 years. I grew up in this town. I walked these halls, played on these fields, and went to these schools. Now, my husband and I have chosen to raise our daughter here, and she will be the 3rd generation in my family to attend the Northborough-Southborough public school system. The decision wasn't just about tradition, it was about values, about wanting to raise our daughter in a place that invests in our future and in its children. Everybody agrees NARI has served its time, but what we choose to do next will define how we value education and community moving forward. A modern, purpose-built school gives every student equal access.
Let her speak. Let her speak.
From up-to-date technology to essential special services, in a space designed for how students learn today, hands-on, collaborative, and inclusive. It also allows our students to connect earlier, building broader friendships, stronger social skills, and a sense of belonging that will carry through their years in our schools. Financially, this isn't just an expense, it's a smart investment. While the upfront cost is real, the alternative of dispersing students into buildings not built for their needs brings, in my opinion, inefficiencies, hidden costs, and long-term strain. A new school lets us plan strategically, not reactively. We have also heard concerns around environmental safety, and I want to acknowledge that. I am not an expert, and that's why the town hired environmental experts to carefully and professionally evaluate these issues. I ask that we listen to their findings, not Facebook comments, speculation. We owe this to our kids and to our taxpayers. To follow the science, trust the experts, and make decisions grounded in facts, not fear. And beyond all that, this is a reflection of who we are. Building a new school sends a message that Southborough does not preserve its past, it prepares for the future. That's what we care about. That's what I care about, education, equity, and excellence. And that we want to remain the kind of town families are proud to join, where people step up, give back, and build forward. I know firsthand, which is why I think this is a little different, how thoughtfully a design school can change a student's path. I was part of the first graduating class at Trotter. That new building gave me many unexpected opportunities, like managing the lights for our school play. I know it may sound small and insignificant to some, but for me, it gave me confidence, it gave me leadership, and a sense of belonging. That is the kind of experience that can shape a young person's
All
life.
right, ma'am, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, I just ask that you all think about the future. I understand that taxes will be impacted, but I do think that this is the best for us.
All right. Again, I'm open to motions. Mike 1, please.
Roger Challen, 29 Oak Hill Road. Been here since 1974. I have, been on numerous committees, elected, appointed. All my kids went through school system in Southborough. There are no kids or grandkids in the schools today or even in the gym today. But I want to just talk very quickly about educational benefits, which we really haven't spent a lot of time on. And I can, since I'm not picking on any particular person, the sound suggests that a lot of people don't care about the educational benefits. So I went to a meeting, and this is in partial answer to the question that someone asked about what do the teachers think. It was a two-part question, I think. What does the Teachers Association think, and what do the teachers think? So I attended, one of the many, many meetings I attended was where the educational benefits were presented to the NERI teachers. And I was really just there to attend. But when we got done with that, after they asked a lot of questions, I said, you know what, I'm going to ask you some questions. Can you tell me anything that you now know about this new school, the possibility of this new school, that will make it better for you to teach and better for the students to learn? And I filled a couple of pages. In all of the question and answer meetings I've been at, and I can't tell you how many, I don't even remember a question about educational benefits. It's all about the cost, it's all about the landfill, it's all about putting kids in other schools. So I hope people really have paid attention to the educational benefits, because we will never again have an opportunity to bring this significant a project in with these educational benefits in the future. We won't be able to do this again.
Again, I'm ready to entertain motions, but I'm going to keep going to the mics until we get one. Mic number 4.
Hi, my name is Anna Tamian, 54 Atwood Road,
Something
Southborough,
newer, different, please. I'm saying that to everybody. Go ahead.
Okay. So I live on the south side. I've been here for more than 30 years. One thing I want to point out is our community is micro markets. So not only you have one big market is Southborough, Massachusetts, but you also have micro markets, neighborhoods. And that particular neighborhood actually is very dependent on Finn School and what we do in that community. I see people walking their kids. They spend that 5 or 10 minutes having intricate moments with their kids. And it's a very viable place for that part. But I want to talk about something else also, education. The dollars spent per student and the amount of money spent on the educators. What I find is that the school systems that strive are the ones that spend more dollars per student, not the building. If you look at history, and like for example, Ashland, Massachusetts just spent a lot of money building new schools. Guess what? When people come to open houses, I ask them, why are they looking at Southborough when they're living in prominent towns like Ashland? They come here for the school system. This is built because of the community and the educators that are provided. Let's put our money towards the student and teacher ratio, not the building. I'm not saying that we shouldn't renovate or remodel or anything like that, but our dollars can be spent so much more wisely. Let's build our kids' education. That's why we're here.
Microphone number 5. Number 5.
Hi, Drumil Shah, 86 Middle Road. Like the previous person said before me, this is quickly becoming a vote of attrition. Can we please move to make the motion to vote? Because a lot of us are with the kids and we reach kind of limitation.
Sir, are you, look, as far as the attrition thing, we're talking about $108 million. I think 3 hours is a good investment of time. However, are you moving the question?
I'm moving to vote, yeah.
Yes, and I hear a second. All right, we're gonna take that motion up. If it passes, we then move immediately to a vote where we will address the open question about secret ballot. Okay? Moving the question is not debatable. It's not amendable. It requires a 2/3 vote. All it does is cut off debate. If we pass this motion, we're done talking. That's as far as it goes. Then we have a vote on the motion on the floor. All right? That being said then, all those in favor of moving the question, please raise your hands. And I'm looking at the gym. All those opposed? Okay. I declare a 2/3 majority on that. All right. If one of the two people who has previously mentioned, yes, do you want to renew your motion now?
I do. Patricia Burns Fiore, 10 Winter Street. I would like to make a motion that we vote via secret ballot.
Okay. First of all, does it have a second? Okay. I'm going to have Mr. Hegarty come up and explain what that entails. It may be more than you think.
All right, folks, can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please? Okay, I'm going to address this to the auditorium and the gym. When we go to this vote, your vote will only be counted if you're seated. Parents in the gymnasium, you have to find a seat with your children. There are 1,700, almost 1,800 seats between this room and the other room. And we have 1/3 of those seats are vacant. So there's plenty of room for people. All right, so first off, can I have a list of the visitors?
Well, let's do, yeah, but let's go over the whole process. You're going to move the visitors.
All right, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to ask the visitors to stand up. The visitors will not be, no, stay where you are right now. I'm going to call you by name. And you're going to have to move to the back of the hall, the last 3 rows on the right. All right, there are some visitors like our town, deputy town.
We're not there yet, so just explain the process so we can vote on whether to do it. That's what we're doing.
Okay. The process will be that every registered voter in the auditorium and the gymnasium will be given a green card. It looks like this yellow sample one I have here. It's perforated in the middle. It says yes and no. All right? There will be 2 tellers for each row. We have 28 people involved in this process. And if, for example, if this was the first row right here and there were only registered voters there, they would ask to see your wristband. They would see there were, say, 3 registered voters there. They would pass 3 of these out. They would go to the next row, all the way down. Once we confirm that every registered voter in this room and every registered voter in the other room has a card, we will then close the hall. The reason we're going to close the hall is to ensure we don't have a situation where somebody could vote twice, go from one room to another room, okay? If somebody does check in, we are having some people trickle in new voters, the warden in the registration room will bring that voter to me personally, and I will give them person a card, okay? I am a registered voter, but I will not be voting in this, just to keep things simple. Okay. All right. So far, so good? So once we confirm that everybody in this room and everybody in the gym has a card, by the way, if you lose the card, you don't get a second card. 1 card, that's all you get. 1 person, 1 vote. Once that's done, could I have our high-tech collection method, please? By the way, I wanted to introduce Stephanie Cicino, the new deputy town clerk. This is like day 8 for her. All right. You talk about walking in the middle of a storm. God bless her. All right, so very simply, I want to show you these boxes are empty. At $3 a piece, it was the cheapest, simplest way we could do this. And all we're going to do is we have this box, we cut a hole in the middle of it, all right? And we're going to put 2 tellers to each end of the row, just like in church. We're going to pass the collection plate. And we're going to pass it down. Every voter will decide if their yes, no card, they'll rip it in half, put whatever time they want to keep in their pocket, put the other half in here. You'll pass it all the way to the other end of the aisle, where one of our tellers will accept it, go to the next person, pass it back. We'll do the zigzag all the way through it. For speed, we're going to have 7 teams of 2 people apiece in this hall, and we'll have 4 teams of 2 people in the other hall. So far, so good? Okay, once this is done, could you lift it up now? All right, now it's like Vanna White. We're going to show you upside curtain number C, okay?
That was collecting, and now he's going to talk about counting.
Okay. We have our 8 tables. All right. And if these 8...
Hold on, Jim. Hold on. What's the point of order? No, but he's explaining it so you know what to approve or not. We will vote whether to do this or not, for sure.
Okay. So if we go ahead with a secret ballot and they're all collected, I'm going to talk about what's going to take place in the auditorium first. When these are collected, they will bring them up to me in the front, and I will take them up in this clear, I'll have one of those clear ballots boxes right in the middle, and I will dump the contents inside of it. I will show you this is empty, and I will put the folded box on the ground. There are 8 residents that will sit at this table up here. So let's say that Paul and I, we will not be involved, but let's say that Paul and I were the 2 in the middle. We would literally take the dump box in front of it, and we would unfold the ballots, because people might fold them up, whatever. And I would simply take all the ones on my side, unfold them, push the yes to my right, push the no's to the left. Our job is just to unfold and push. To my right, there'd be 3 more people. The person to my immediate right would take the yes votes that go to that person to the right. They would count them into 10. Then they would push it to the person next to them, who would verify a second time that there are yes votes and there are 10 of those yes votes. They would then push it to a third person in the end that would put rubber bands around it and dump them into a clear box that we left in your view on the end of the table. So we have 8 people involved in the process, 3 sets of eyes looking at every card, and it's left for you to see right on the table. So far, so good? Okay, while this is going on in this room, the similar process is going on in the auditorium with these collection boxes. The difference is you won't be able to see this box transported from one to the next. So what's going to happen, we're going to have a table put up in the middle, up front, just like this, with a with a box like this. This is what we use to store ballots. So what we're trying to show is this process, we're doing the same chain of custody and integrity of the process that we use on elections. We're not required to, but I think it's the right thing to do. So it's going to happen in front view of everybody in here on the cameras. They're going to empty those boxes collected in the gym into an empty box. They'll show you it's empty, pour it all into here. And then the police officer will seal this with 2 pre-numbered zip ties, the same standard we use for elections. They will call those numbers out to us over the PA. Then the officer will transport the sealed box into here to ensure that it can't be altered or tampered along the way. It'll be brought to the front. I will verify that the seals are intact. I'll read the same numbers back to you, open it up, and dump them into that box, and they'll be counted by the same team of 8 people up ahead. That's the process we intend to follow if you want to go with a hand count. Okay?
So I'm obliged to say, or we could just raise our hands. And I'm I mean, 2 sides to every story. All right, so the motion on the floor is for a secret ballot. It's been seconded. All those this is a majority vote to do a secret ballot or not. Is there any comment or question on the motion on the floor? Yes, sir.
Does this eliminate a motion to reconsider? Or do we have to wait here for everything to be counted in order for it to be over?
Well, let me preempt you on that, and okay. let me explain why. A motion to reconsider, typically, since I've been moderator, we haven't had one because it has to do with new or different information. all right? I'm not going to entertain a motion to reconsider immediately after we vote.
So
there's no point to it.
You would assure me that once we cast that vote, people can leave and it doesn't matter.
Once the votes have been collected, yeah. I mean, again, absent new or different information, I can't rule that out, but it would be, after all the time we've just spent, I would be surprised. But I won't rule it out. But that's a high standard for reconsideration. Okay. So any other questions on the motion on the floor? If we do take up this process, you may not leave the hall. If you do leave the hall, you forfeited your vote. We have to control it that way. Okay. All those in favor of conducting our ballot today by secret ballot, please raise your hands. And I'm looking at the gym. All those opposed? All right. And I'm looking at the gym. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor, one more time, please. And I'm looking at the gym. All those opposed? Okay. That seems pretty clear that motion fails. All right. So now we move immediately to then a vote on the article on the floor. This requires a 2/3 vote to pass. So I will ask for, don't do it yet, I will ask all those in favor, this is a yes vote, all those in favor to raise your hands. That would be to pass the motion on Article 1. And then I will take all those opposed. All right? All right? All those in favor of the motion on Article 1, please raise your hands. And I'm looking at the gym. All right? All those opposed? And the gym. Okay, I declare that does not receive a 2/3 majority, and the motion fails. I have a motion to adjourn and a second. It's actually a motion to dissolve. I'll take it as that, though. And
1,171 people attended.
okay. Congratulations, 1,171 of you. Give the clerk a little love. He wrangled this meeting. All those in favor of dissolving this special town meeting, please raise your hands. All opposed? This town meeting is adjourned.